Welcome back, everybody, to a spooky-themed episode of Yeah No No Yeah. This is our Halloween episode, and it was Keelan's choice for the topic, so he chose 5 vampire movies for us to watch and discuss. So we talk about Nosferatu The Vampyre, The Hunger, Near Dark, Vampire's Kiss, and The Addiction. So we hope you guys enjoy. Also keep an eye out for the timestamps in the description. If you want to avoid spoilers, jump to any certain point, as well as the links to our social medias and the link to the Patreon if you want to help support the podcast. We would really appreciate it. You can donate even as low as $1, and every bit helps. And don't forget to vote on the poll or leave a comment on the episode if you're on Spotify. We appreciate all the feedback we can get. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Isn't fucking wearing a themed t-shirt this time. This is great.
I wanted to wear something spooky, but this is kind of Freddy-esque, isn't it? Something?
A little
I
bit.
think so, yeah, and it's got like fall colors. Yeah.
Me and Quinn both wearing Halloween t-shirts. Let's fucking go. Mine is just the poster.
Yeah, the night he came home. Yep, Halloween. It's our spooky episode.
And by God did he come home, and we came back to the internet once again for another episode.
Yeah, how's your October? How's your fucking spooky season going, guys? I don't know.
It's good. It's been spooky. We're going to a pumpkin patch on Friday. We're going to carve pumpkins. He's never carved one before.
Nice. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. I haven't carved pumpkins since I was a kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have you ever carved pumpkins, Keelan?
I don't think I ever have, actually. But I did go to a pumpkin patch last year, and it was fucking terrible. No, I'm sure the one you're going to will be fine, but like it was kind of like carnival-y, and there was like a lot of like
nice.
fucking rickety fucking shitty little rides that like kids could go on and stuff. And the pumpkin patch itself, it just looked like they bought like a load of pumpkins from like a shop or something and just threw them in a fucking field.
I'm just thinking of Funland from Father Ted.
Pretty much. No, it actually isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't too dissimilar to that. It was horrible.
Oh my god.
That's cute. I have been to this pumpkin patch before with Stella, and it's pretty cute. I think Liam will like it. You take like a wagon to a corn maze, so and there's like donuts and cider and.
Tomorrow's gonna be like the first time again, basically. Like I actually haven't done it in probably like 20 years, so.
I like to just do the classic, but you can always do the Halloween pumpkin, like from the intro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
I'll
the
probably
nose,
try
the
that.
nose like
The little
cuts down
slit.
into the mouth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep, I'll probably try something like that. I just love the smell of fucking the inside of pumpkins. That's one of my favorite smells ever. Digging out the guts of a pumpkin. Oh my god.
People hate digging out the guts, but I think it's kind of fun. If you have the right
It's the
tool,
best part.
it's like pretty. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
fun. And then you can roast the seeds and eat them. And it's so good.
I've never eaten pumpkin. I've never carved a pumpkin, but I've drank a couple of pumpkin spice lattes, so I think that counts.
Did you say you've never eaten pumpkin?
Yeah, I've never. It's not really something we do here.
You just haven't ever tried pumpkin.
No, never.
That's wacky.
Pumpkin
Never
pie
had
is
pumpkin
really good.
pie. Oh my gosh.
Well, pies to us Irish people is like filled with like meat and potatoes and shit. So
Well, yeah, that's Australian too. That's what we think with pie. Fucking
America
Americans.
fucking dessert pie is disgusting.
I mean, I like chicken pot pie and like savory pies. Doesn't mean I don't like pumpkin pie.
yeah.
That's just wacky. You've never eaten a pumpkin. That's so weird to
That
me.
is crazy. Gotta
It's not
start,
really
man.
weird to me. I don't know anyone that's eaten pumpkin, honestly.
That's gonna be the poll in the podcast. Just is it
Have you
weird
ever
that
eaten
Keelan hasn't eaten a pumpkin?
That's definitely gonna be the poll.
How's your boys this spooky season?
It's going by fast. Trying to keep the spooky vibes going. Carving the pumpkin and throwing on Halloween in the background, that's gonna be like the peak of my spooky season probably.
Being a horror fan, October is just
It's another month. It's just another month.
Run into any
Yep.
goblins or ghouls or creatures of the night?
A couple, but like, you know,
Yeah.
once you ignore them, they'll just go away, you know.
That's all you gotta do.
They won't hurt you.
They're pretty slow.
I don't know what fucking goblins you guys have. They're pretty fucking fast over here.
They're just little leprechauns. You're mistaking them for
Hey,
goblins.
come on.
Oh my god.
God, coming right out the gate with blatant racism. What an episode
Yeah.
this is turning out to be.
Just another episode. But yeah, I guess shout out patrons. Sarah, Amy, Luna, and Kevin.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
the support.
Thank
You're
you.
the best.
Thanks, fellas.
You keep us going, and if you want to become a patron, you can as well.
It's nothing stopping you.
I was just gonna say there's nothing stopping you.
Literally nothing.
Oh my god.
It's almost like you could donate for as low as
Yeah,
a
just
dollar.
even
Yeah.
$1. Poll results, I can do that. Our latest episode's still only like 4 days old, so we haven't gotten any votes yet on that. I looked for an episode that we also had Julia on, which was the Whale Zone.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was going to do that poll. The poll was just, do you prefer films like The Whale or films like Ant-Man Quantumania? that was the poll. The options were character-driven dramas, big action blockbusters, a little of both, or I don't like either. And one person picked character-driven dramas, and 3 people picked a little of both. You have to have a balance between The Whale and Ant-Man
That's fair
Quantumania.
answers.
Those are the two extremes, the whale and Quantumania.
What have we been watching, guys?
Kind of talked about it briefly on the last episode, and we've kind of talked about it before in another episode. I played the Silent Hill 2 remake. I completed it.
That is all you've been playing for the last, 2 weeks. I've seen you on Discord, and every time it's
and
only Shallow playing Silent Hill 2.
obviously earlier in the year I talked about Silent Hill 2 on this segment, and Silent Hill 2 has become very fucking important to me. I've played it I think twice now, and I played the first 4, and I love Silent Hill now. It's probably one of my favorite things. It's my hyperfixation for this year. This remake came out at kind of the right time, really. I think when we were talking about Silent Hill 2, I was talking about how crappy the remake looked, and it didn't look good. Since playing it, I've gone back and rewatched the trailers. It did not do it justice. Silent Hill 2 remake is fucking great, and I'm so happy to have been wrong about something. It captures everything important about that original game. I don't think it's better, but it's a remake of a classic, and they already had kind of a tall order to fulfill. And with the developers, the Bloober team they're called, they've done games in the past fucking Layers of Fear, I think was one of their games, and also The Medium. And from what I've heard, they kind of delve into certain mental health topics, and they don't do the best job of doing it. They're quite insensitive, apparently. And so hearing that they were doing Silent Hill 2 is just no, they fucking nailed it. They nailed everything that you needed to nail with that game in terms of the story and the characters that you come across. It kind of makes the sum of the themes a bit less vague, and I'm not completely sure how I feel about it, but it kind of works for the most part. The atmosphere is still kind of intact. It's more over the shoulder kind of this time. It definitely works, but I still kind of find myself liking the fixed perspective of the original a bit more, because that's kind of you're kind of looking down on this guy, and you've no control over him really, apart from moving him around. You've no control over what you see, and it's kind of dreamlike in that way. And I think putting it over the shoulder kind of gives it a whole new perspective. It works for what this game is. It's kind of more in line with the Resident Evil 2 remakes than anything, but it works, and there's more of an emphasis on combat, and the combat is pretty good in the game. It's way better than the fucking original. The original combat is horrible. It's you just go up to an enemy and you fucking hold square while you beat them to death, and that's it. They're dead. So there's kind of less emphasis in combat in that original game, but that's not a detriment to the original game. The original game has so much more going for it. I finished it the other day, and I was just kind of in awe that they pulled it off. I think the Silent Hill 2 remake is fucking fantastic. There's moments in the game that I kind of think are better done than in the original, in terms of how they're framed or explored. It's also scary as fuck, and I appreciated that. There's some segments that scared me as much as the original game. Yeah, it's fucking fantastic. I cannot believe they did it. I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Liam showed me Bad Education.
Oh yeah.
I think we've all seen it, right?
Well, it was funny because he had been talking about it for a long time, and I just kept getting it confused with Bad Teacher in my mind. I thought it was going to be a comedy. Totally hooked. I mean, it almost felt like a thriller. It just did such a good job of taking you through this story, and I didn't know anything about it, so that was also really fun. I was something bad's gonna happen, but I just had no idea. I was is somebody gonna die? I mean, anything could have happened. Just the way that the setup was, it was so serious, but it wasn't I don't know, sometimes those movies are we're telling the true story of blah blah blah, and they can be kind of up themselves. Yeah, it was just so good. And Liam and I talked a lot about how well the film creates a gray area, or a really blurred line with the morality, and you feel a lot for the characters, but you're also God, that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, I just loved it. Some of the rants that Hugh Jackman goes on feels a little bit entitled, obviously, but at the same time you're yeah, you're kind of right. I don't know, it's so good. I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's a fucking great film.
I watched a movie from this year, and it's called Oddity,
Oh my gosh.
directed by Damien McCarthy. It's a new horror, and I feel like I've talked about like some new horrors here, like quite recently, like a lot. They all seem to be just letting me the fuck down lately. It started off so strong. Like, the tension was there. It was really, really good. That setup was fucking great, and I was like really invested in the lead actress. I can't remember her name, but she was like really, really good. But it just got to a point where you're like, I'm really getting annoyed with this character. It's just her kind of going on little like rants here and there, and then just like spooky stuff happening in the house, and it's like nothing's really happening, and it's kind of boring. There is some tension there, and I do like a lot of the stuff with the thing that they use, like that
It was
guy.
like a golem type thing.
Yeah, it was really weird looking, but I liked all of that stuff, except when it was like turned into CGI, basically. Like, that's when it was like, okay, no. There was that, and like a couple of scares that were like absolutely ridiculous, especially one towards the end. I did find myself getting a little bit like on edge sometimes with some of the shots of like the house and everything, and like it felt creepy in those moments, but it just wasn't enough to keep me interested as a whole with the story or anything. It's not terrible or anything, and I still kind of want to see the director's previous film. Even so, yeah, it's not bad, it's not great. It's just, yeah, somewhere in the middle for me, so I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10.
I watched a new horror movie as well, but it was, thankfully, in my opinion, much better than what you just described, and that is Terrifier 3. Yeah, I drove to Omaha, visited my buddy Nick, who also loves horror movies. We went and watched it. Watching it with a crowd, it definitely actually helps, and it wasn't too obnoxious. It was actually pretty fun. I like it just as much as the previous two. I mean, I love these movies. They definitely go bigger and try and be better and like just one-up themselves with each movie. At this point, they just kind of know what they are and know what their audience wants.
Does it top that one kill?
In a way, kind of.
Yeah,
It
I gotta
actually
look at
kind of
it.
does.
Yeah.
There's, one main kill, and that's the shower scene. That's all I'll say that people talk about with Terrifier 3 now.
Shower scene with a chainsaw.
Yep, yeah. It's a shower scene with a chainsaw. He's dressed up as Santa, and he's got some wacky sunglasses. There's a lot going on in that fucking scene.
Does
fun.
he put the chainsaw up somebody's butt?
Oh my god, Julia.
Oh, you must have heard about it.
Spoiler.
No, is
I don't
that
want
what
to say too
happens?
much. I don't want to say too much.
yeah.
Julia,
I
can you
don't wanna
stop? He hasn't seen
but
it.
Sorry, I was just guessing.
I want to see Terrifier 3.
wow, that was a very specific, and I'll just say accurate guess,
I
but
was
I'm not
just
saying anything
wondering
more.
why would somebody walk out of a theater?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, well, apparently people were
You
like
just
walking
thought
out within the
chainsaw up
first.
the ass.
Yes, and I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
maybe that's right.
Believe me, it goes a lot of places, that chainsaw, and it shows all of it. Like, it goes in several places. I still don't know how I, like, would rank these movies. I mean, I kind of love them all for different reasons, but, like, they kind of one-up the production value and, like, kills and effects and everything with each movie. If you like the previous two movies, you'll like this. That's all I really know. And it's definitely got the most emphasis on humor, too. Like, there's a lot of laugh-out-loud moments, like, even more than the first two. Yeah, I mean, the audience was laughing, having a great time, and the fact that these movies can be so fucking gross and disturbing, but also so funny is just like something hard to pull off. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 just for pure entertainment value, yeah.
I'm so happy it's so successful. It fucking
It is.
outgrossed Joker in the second weekend. I could not believe it.
Even I liked Joker too, but like this is better.
I watched a not so recent horror movie. I watched a film from 1992 called Sleepwalkers. It's Stephen King's, like, the only time he has written an original story for a film. I kind of put it on because I was like, I'd seen a bit of it before because, like, I think my dad and stepmom were watching it, and I was just kind of there, and I was just kind of looked at the TV, and I was like, oh, that kind of looks interesting. It's a fucking wild movie. It clearly comes from the era of, you know, coked up Stephen King, because there's some absolutely fucking, like, bonkers shit in this movie. I mean, tying into the main topic, I suppose, it is kind of a vampire movie, but they're like energy vampires. Like, they suck the energy out of your mouth. They're like shapeshifter fucking energy vampires. I'd hesitate to even call it a good movie. And the first half an hour was kind of rough, and there's things in there where it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Where is this coming out of? But the last hour has such an infectious energy to it. It just goes all out with like the just complete schlock. Cameos from like fucking, you know, a lot of famous horror people. It's like in one scene, like fucking Stephen King, obviously cameos because it's, you know, it's a Stephen King movie. movie. He's gonna fucking cameo in it. And like he's talking to like Toby Hooper and it's just like, oh, he got all his buddies on in this. This is fun. It has the best movie cat of all time. I love her so much. She's so integral to the plot. The shapeshifter vampires are scared of the cats, and also the cats can kind of see through the shapeshifter's facade. And so you just get a lot of great reaction shots of like cat looking at like one of the shapeshifters, and the shapeshifter's like, fucking look away, you little bitch.
God, I have to watch that.
The last half an hour is fucking mental, and I appreciate how hard it goes. It just goes bonkers, and I fucking loved it. I really, really enjoyed Sleepwalkers. It's not great, you know, it's a fun it's a really fun time, and I really enjoyed watching it. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. It's really stuck in my mind since I've watched it. It's just a load of fun.
Went to see Smile 2. Everybody here has seen it, right?
I haven't seen the first one. I have no interest. It's not my type of horror. I don't really like horror that's built upon jump scares.
The first one and the second one are definitely like two different beasts, but I did really, really enjoy the second one quite a bit. I thought it was so fun. That Naomi Scott chick is amazing in the movie.
She's the best part.
She's so good.
She's so good.
They should really give awards to horror actors. And
yeah.
She like cries in that movie, and it almost is like got this Ari Aster like quality of like women crying, and you know, like Hereditary and Midsummer. I was like, oh my god, this is really disturbing me. Liam and I kind of talked about there's like a side character that almost ruins it for me. She's so annoying.
Which one?
Her like friend
Gemma.
Oh yeah.
There was just something about that.
She's a terrible actress.
Terrible actress.
Terrible
yeah,
actress.
she's not.
I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of sucked. I didn't like the way she moved unnaturally, like she was made of CGI or something. It's really bizarre.
I'm not. It's not really spoiling, but like at one point you do see her smile, and I was like, "Come on, you could do better than that."
I know, but there was some new concepts that I found pretty creepy, like the choreography, like element, her apartment scene.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was a good scene. It was fun. Yeah.
I wanted to like it more, but I liked aspects about it, but for some reason I don't know why I didn't. I'm in the minority. I think I like the first one more, but I know a lot of people like the second one more.
I think they're both good, and I think the first one is like the story just unfolds differently. Like I kind of love that it does like delve into this woman's relationships and friendships and how this is affecting like so many aspects of her life, and I guess it does that in the second one too. It just feels more contained and more like she's in her own head than the first one.
I really like the opening scene too.
I fucking
loved it.
Yeah.
And when the credits like showed up, I was like, this
That's
is
my
really
favorite
cool.
scene of the movie. I really love that opening.
Yeah.
I feel like the guy, the director, what's his name?
Parker Finn.
I feel like he's good, and he almost has some Mike Flanagan style touches.
Yeah, maybe a bit, yeah.
That maybe had honed in a little bit better or were like more developed in the second one. I rated it pretty high, but I gave Smile 2 a 9 out of 10.
Julia showed me a movie called Stir of Echoes, starring Kevin Bacon. It was so weird. I kept saying to Julia during this movie, like, it feels similar to Secret Window.
Yeah.
And it's from the director of Secret Window. So I was like, okay, he has a
funny.
style. Found this to be interesting. It does feel Secret Windowy, and like it's kind of the same kind of thing where it's like a lesser, more contained little mystery thing. It's fascinating, and like the journey the main character goes on is interesting, but it wasn't gripping me. The element of like the missing girl and stuff like that, it's dealt with in an interesting way, I guess, but when it comes down to it, it feels like still kind of like a cheesy plot. And Kevin Bacon is like half great, half not great. Sometimes he has some moments where I'm like, no.
But you almost just love it because he's so ridiculous.
He's very he can be a bit ridiculous. The scene where he's digging holes though, I can't. I was just like, this acting is not very good, Kevin. It's an enjoyable little thriller, but it's nothing that I would say is like amazing or one of my favorites. But yeah, I would give it a 6 out of 10.
I was rewatching because it's October and I always have to rewatch some of the Halloween franchise. It's like my tradition. It doesn't matter which of the movies, I just have to rewatch some of them. Halloween H2O, I don't know, I guess I'll talk about that.
That's not one to single out.
I don't know, yeah. I mean, you could single out any of these movies, but
let's go.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, it's got Josh Hart in it, so I had to, that's one reason to talk about it. All he can talk about in the movie is his hair. He's got some strange hair in that movie.
Very fucking weird hair. LL
Cool J, I guess, is in it. Like, it's just a weird cast, and it's just a weird Halloween movie the more I think about it, which is why I want to talk about it. Like, it's the only one. It takes place in California. Even though it's not handled great, I think they handled like Laurie Strode's character a little better than like the new Halloween movies. Processes like her trauma and shit from the original Halloween. Like, instead of turning her into like a complete badass, she's like just a really troubled like alcoholic transparent. But otherwise, like, Michael Myers looks goofy as hell. Like, the mask, they just cannot seem to get right with all these sequels. Like, you can see
It's so
his
fucking
eyes and, like, the
strange.
skin under the mask. It just looks so goofy. Almost so bad it's good. I still think it's okay, but, like, it's a really mixed bag. But it does have one of my favorite Halloween endings. I do like the ending a lot.
It's absolutely fucking ruined by the next one.
Exactly, it's fucking ruined. Yeah, they keep trying to end these movies, and then they just keep finding crazy fucking write-arounds. Like, they write themselves out of it. In my opinion, this is like the last enjoyable, like really kind of enjoyable Halloween movie for me. Everything else that comes after, Resurrection, the Rob Zombie movies, the new movies, I didn't really... this is like the last one that actually I kind of like have a place in my heart for some reason. So yeah, I don't know. I've always liked it, but it did lessen a bit this time, so I gave it like a 6 out of 10. It's not bad. It's okay.
There's one soundboard.
Holy fuck.
New Julia one. First
I just
Julia
need a
one.
mystery, guys. I just need a good mystery.
She just needs a mystery. Yeah, do we have any mini topics?
I tried to pick some like horror related ones that
Mine
you know,
was horror
because
related
spooky
also.
episode.
We talked about it on a prior episode, and none of us were really happy about it. They announced a director for the American Psycho remake.
Oh yeah.
Fucking Luca Guadagnino's doing the American Psycho remake.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And guess who's excited for it
Yeah.
now? Yeah.
Oh, I know you are. Yeah, but...
Like, if it was anyone else, I'd be the same.
Keelan,
But like,
Keelan,
I think he could do it. It's a reinterpretation, as Spike Lee would say.
Fuck off.
Oh boy.
I just don't want it. I don't
What a
want any more
pretentious way
remakes.
of-
Stop.
Zoomer version of American Psycho. Get Timothy Chalamet as Patrick Bateman.
Luca needs
No,
to be
they're
stopped.
not. They're not going to get Timothy. Timothy can't
Hey,
do it.
but it's Luca.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think he can pull it off. I think he can
I'm
pull it
not.
off. If they get the more fucked up shit from the book in the movie, I think there could be like a clear divide between this one and the original one, because you know he did that with Suspiria, and that's my favorite film of all time. So
A couple of them aren't really news or anything, but they're just like things that were put out that I thought you could react to. Earlier this month, I mean, mainly talked about within the horror community, whatever. Variety put out their top 100 horror films ever, I guess.
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
I
100
saw this
top
list.
100 best horror films. And I was just going to rattle off the top 25 just to see your reactions and what you thought. 25, they have Scream. 24, Blair Witch Project. 23, Dawn of the Dead, the original at 23. 22, Carnival of Souls. I don't really like that movie that much,
me
but
neither.
I mean, it's a classic, I guess. I don't know.
It's definitely very influential. Like David Lynch fucking stole a lot from it. So
Yeah, I mean it's vibey. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. At 21, Black Sunday. I haven't seen that
I
yet.
haven't seen.
20, they have Get Out, which I don't know, I think is a bit high.
Yeah.
Honestly,
No.
of all time.
Considering how low they put some other films, like I can't remember what the fuck was near the top, but it was just like, really, this fucking high up?
19, they have The Mummy. Like the old Mummy, not
Boris
the
Karloff
Brendan
one.
Fraser. 18, they have The Shining, which is kind of low.
That is
It's
quite
a bit,
low.
bit too low. 17, Diabolique, which I really would like to see. 16, the original Halloween. Also a little low. 15, Don't Look Now. I really want to see that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
me
that's a
too.
good one.
14, the original Nosferatu. 13, Silence of the Lambs. I think it's deserving.
It's deserving, but it's also another one I don't really think was a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a psychological thriller.
12, the original King Kong. 11, Alien. 10, though, they have Carrie. I do agree with that. This is where it gets weird. At 9, they have Salo, 120 Days of Sodom. I
Yeah.
think you're the only one that's seen that, right?
I wouldn't even class that as a horror film. It's played more like a drama, and it's not even that good.
8, the original Frankenstein. 7, Audition. I still haven't seen Audition.
Fantastic film.
Fuck. 6, Night of the Living Dead.
Deserved.
Deserving, probably. 5, Rosemary's Baby.
That's deserving. I
4,
think.
Jaws. 3, Psycho.
Mhm.
2, The Exorcist, and 1, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I'm
That is a good
that's
pick
not
for
bad.
number one.
That's a good pick. It's caught me off guard, but I was like, yeah, fair.
I think it's the 100 to 26 region that was like the most wild.
It was really weird. Like
Yeah.
Human Centipede 2 was actually
Yeah,
there.
it was in
above
the
the original
fucking-
Suspiria. So
That was
yeah.
so strange.
Isn't that? I was happy to see that though. And then I can quick rattle this off too. I just thought, I mean, you know, since you were just talking, Keelan, about you finished Silent Hill 2, IGN put out their 25 best horror games ever made. I just want to quick
Oh,
name them
lovely.
off to see what you think. 25, Stay Out of the House.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Neither do I. 24, Slender, The 8 Pages.
Come on.
I don't know. 23, The Evil Within. I want to play The Evil Within. I heard it's
Evil
good.
Within's good.
22, Condemned, Criminal Origins.
Also a good game.
I don't know. 21, they have Manhunt.
Started playing that recently. That game is like so fucking disturbing.
20, they have Inside. Didn't one of you guys play that?
Oh, yeah.
We played it.
19, Visage. I think that's how you say that. 18, Phasmophobia. I've heard of that.
That's fun. That's a
Very
fun
fun.
game.
17, they have Dead by Daylight, which I've actually started playing for the first time recently. It is a fun fucking game. That game
Dead by
is fun.
Daylight is fun.
16, Until Dawn. I would like to play that.
It's good.
15, Alan Wake 2.
I've been playing that. That's really great.
14, Soma. I
Never
don't know.
played it.
13, Clock Tower.
That's a very old game. That's like the original survival horror game.
12, Forbidden Siren 2.
Oh, I started playing that recently too. That's really good.
11, Resident Evil, the original. 10, Five Nights at Freddy's. They put Five Nights
Get
at
the
Freddy's in top
fuck
10.
out of here.
I know. Fuck
Mike.
these people. 9, they have Resident Evil 4. Just below Five Nights at
Oh,
Freddy's.
that's
they have
very
Resident
low
Evil
for
4.
Resident Evil 4.
It was pretty low.
I expected that to be
It
number
is.
1.
This next one I'm really happy about, but I also think it should be even higher. 8, they have Left 4 Dead 2. I fucking love Left 4 Dead 2. 7, Outlast. Outlast is solid,
fucking hate
but
Outlast.
it's pretty high.
Is it bad?
hate
I was
it?
reading about
Fucking
it.
hate Outlast.
It's really like, what? Isn't it like jump scare heavy?
I didn't even find it jump scare heavy. It's just I really didn't like the aesthetic. It felt very try-hard, and the ending is horrible.
6, Alien Isolation.
Oh, that's very high. That's a great game.
5, Dead Space, the first one.
Ooh.
4, they have PT, which is that, didn't that even not come out? That wasn't even like a full game, right?
No, that did come out. But
it did?
It does take like a decent amount of time to beat that it could be considered its own game. But it is very good. I've never
looked
finished it,
creepy
but
as
I've
hell.
seen like playthroughs of it because it's so fucking confusing.
3, Amnesia, The Dark Descent.
Never could get down with it.
2, Resident Evil 2, the remake.
Yeah.
And then 1, Silent Hill 2.
Yes,
Not really
man.
surprised. Yeah.
Where the fuck's Silent Hill 3? That's nearly as
Yeah.
good as the second one.
Really quick, the last one, just because it almost segues into our main topic in a way. But Christopher Nolan, there's a rumor that Christopher Nolan's next movie might be a period horror piece in the 1920s about vampires.
Starring Tom Holland
Yep.
And
and
Matt
Matt
Damon.
Damon.
It seems interesting. Doesn't seem very Nolan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Although
if
I've always wanted him to try horror. I've always
Me
wanted to
too.
see a horror movie by him.
I mean, isn't that
But-
what we asked for? Like when we were talking about Oppenheimer, even.
Everyone's doing period fucking horror now. Like Ryan Coogler's next movie is like a period vampire movie as well. Michael B. Jordan's
Wow.
playing twins. Fuck yeah.
Wow. We don't want to just talk about vampire movies, do we?
Yeah, we gotta throw some other shit in there.
Shade towards vampires. I don't appreciate it.
I picked Burnt Offerings. I was trying to pick movies that maybe you guys maybe haven't seen or maybe that you guys weren't gonna pick that I love. Has anyone seen that one?
No.
I've
I don't
never
know.
even heard
Yeah.
of it.
Never heard of that either.
It's pretty good. It's like a slow burn. It used to kind of scare me when I was a kid because, you know, this family, like, it's kind of like a Shining idea. This family gets to like spend a summer at this house, but there's like a catch. They have to take care of the old woman who never leaves her room, and you never see the old woman, so it's kind of mysterious.
I'll go with Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2?
That's a great one.
Banger.
I
Oh, yeah.
just love coming back to that during spooky season. I'm not huge into like the movies on the other side of that, I guess. Like I do like Army of Darkness. I like the first one, but I don't love them. Just Evil Dead 2 though, it's just the blend of everything I love about that whole universe and stuff, and Ash is so entertaining. It's always a fun time.
I did have to throw in one of my favorite Halloween sequel, which I always watch every October. Like, it's a tradition, and I've actually probably seen it more than the original Halloween, which is just fucking crazy. But like Halloween 4, The Revenge, is it The Revenge? The Return. God, they have The Return, The Revenge, all the fucking names. But The Return of Michael Myers. It's 1988. It's my favorite Halloween sequel. I used to play it like just on repeat on like AMC channel on cable. The reason that this just fits those spooky vibes is like the opening credit sequence. I just love the way it looks. It's like my favorite, you know, everyone can agree.
Fucking gorgeous.
It's just like shots of like spooky, like the like fields of like pumpkins and fucking scarecrows and shit, and it just sets the tone. And yeah, it's just a fun, kind of crazy Halloween movie. Check it out. It's like a direct sequel to to the second one. I don't know. It's my favorite Halloween sequel, Halloween 4.
There are a lot that come to my mind around this time. I'm going to kind of piggyback off Quinn's pick there. I'm going to talk about my favorite Halloween sequel, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Ah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's one that I've kind of had a troubled history with, in that when I first watched it, I didn't like it, and I think that was kind of because I was kind of influenced by, you know, the general reaction to it, where it's just like, oh yeah, it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It sucks. It's so weird. It's so goofy. But that's kind of what I've come to love about it, because like we've had 12 movies of Michael Myers. They were so fucking bold after the second one to be like, okay, we're going to do an anthology series now. And no one liked it. But it's gained a cult following, and for good fucking reason, because I think this has the best, like, October vibes out of any Halloween movie. I mean, the main plot of the movie, it's to do with Halloween masks and Stonehenge and all that shit, and it's a fucking goofy, wild fucking movie. The soundtrack is fucking phenomenal. It's probably one of my favorite things that John Carpenter has done, honestly. Even that fucking godforsaken jingle.
God. It is a great one. It grew on me a lot too. I think I was literally in the same boat. I hated it because it didn't have Michael Myers, but it definitely grows on you.
For my second pick, I chose I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I haven't seen that yet.
Me neither.
It's really tight and compact, and it's really fun. It's like probably the best teen slasher of the 90s, in my opinion. It's creepy. I don't know. I really love it. I think the whole cast, like Jennifer Love Hewitt, she's so good. And God, what's her face? Why can't I think of her name? Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah, she's really good. I don't know. It's summery feeling, but it also just feels strangely like appropriate for Halloween.
I'm going to go with one that's probably a bit of a, lesser pick for all of you guys, because I don't think anyone here likes it as much as me. But it's a horror movie that I really like because of the tension that it builds, I think. It Comes at Night. Incredibly tension-filled, and like whenever I watch it, when I'm in that kind of mood, or like I want something like scary, it really does the job. Like I just get very, very immersed in it, especially if the environment is like dark around me and there's not much noise. It's like, oh my God, this is creepy shit. But
yeah. So next one, I have a John Carpenter movie that not a lot of people really seem to talk about, but I do tend to watch it around October season just because it kind of fits the vibes for me, and that's Prince of Darkness. Sort of like end of the world feeling horror movie. It's got a great soundtrack. I think it's my favorite thing about it, and it's an underrated John Carpenter score for sure. It's got Donald Pleasance back in one of his movies. He plays a priest. The cast, the score, the general feeling of dread, like the whole movie is just filled with this sense of dread. Just kind of fits like the October horror movie vibes for me. The funniest thing about it has Alice Cooper in the movie. And he kills a guy with a bicycle. It's just kind of funny. Like, it's really random. But it's goofy, but it's played so seriously, and it's kind of, like, disturbing in a way. It's one that people don't really talk about enough. Prince of Darkness.
For my next one, I picked one of my favorite films of all time that none of you have seen. Technically horror, so I'm picking it. I don't find it particularly scary at all. It's more funny and fun than scary, but Phantom of the Paradise, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It is easily a top 10 movie for me. I think it's virtually perfect. Everything that I want in just one neat little package. It's like 90 minutes long. It's so campy. The songs are just phenomenal. The main performance from William Finley as the Phantom. He's so fun. He's so much fun. The way his character changes from like the first frame to the last. I love it. I don't want to really want to spoil much about it, like particularly what it's about, but it is like basically a cross between Phantom of the Opera and Faust, I think, was their other main influence. Great side supporting performance from Paul Williams, who, he wrote Rainbow Connection for the Muppet movie. He was in Baby Driver, the arms deal scene. He was the little guy.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I adore Phantom of the Paradise. Easy top 10 movie for me, and it's one that I think about rewatching around this time of the year, and I probably will rewatch it this year.
I picked The Others. It's the Nicole Kidman stuck in this huge house, and her husband's off at war, and she has these two kids, and they are like sensitive to light, so she always has the curtains drawn, and every time they like leave a room and go in another, she like locks the door behind them. And one of the creepiest movies to this day. It has a really fun sort of like plot reveal that you just do not see coming, and I just think it's wonderful every time I watch it. And Nicole Kidman's really good in it.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that one. Rewatch it. I didn't love it, but maybe it was built up a bit too much for me.
I do like a good slasher. I like it when a slasher looks real. So I'm gonna go with Green Room.
That's a good choice.
The kills in that fucking movie, like, they still get me. Some of the shit in there is just disgusting.
That's one of the only
There's
times I've audibly made a noise in the theater.
Yeah.
Was like that first violent part. I was like,
And all the kills are so blunt and to the point. I rewatched it last year, I think. I love Green Room. I've seen it a couple of times now.
I love that like arm snap he does on that guy at one point. Oh my god. It goes so hard. It's crazy.
yeah,
but,
it's really good and really like tightly wound. It's like perfect.
I love the ending of it.
Yeah.
Like the final confrontation between them and Patrick Stewart. I love that so much.
And Patrick Stewart being a bad guy, I was like, oh my god.
He's so creepy.
He's so good, but it sucks seeing him be so bad.
It's one of my favorite horror sequels ever, and that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Dennis Hopper's in it. He's fucking nuts.
I love him.
Dual wielding fucking chainsaws, yeah.
Yeah, there's like a chainsaw, basically like sword battle at the end
So
with him
cool.
and Leatherface. The protagonist, like the final girl, I like her. I like all the characters. They really just like ramp it up, and like it's a totally different movie than the first. It's near perfect for me. I still haven't given it like a 5, but I mean, shit, maybe my next time it will be. It's just really fun.
Well, I'm guessing all of you have seen it. Like, it is famous enough horror movie, but I feel like less and less people are talking about it these days. American Werewolf in London. I fucking love that
Yeah.
movie. It is
Yeah.
a near perfect film to me. The ending is a bit... I'm not a huge fan of how abrupt
I'm
it
the
is.
same. Literally, the only reason it's not a 10.
Everything else, it's just completely up my alley. It's so funny, but it's also so fucking scary. Like, some of the jump scares in this are like some of my favorites in terms of how well crafted they are and how shocking they are. The main two performances are really, really great, I think. The transformation sequence,
my
like, you
God.
can't talk about the American Werewolf in London without talking about the transformation sequence. Some of the best practical effects in horror, in movies in general. Oh my god, the look of Griffin Dunn's character after he dies. Well, he dies at the start, so it's not that big of a spoiler. Love the look of his character. I absolutely love it. From the subway scene up until like the very end, it's some of my favorite shit ever put to movies. And that subway scene in particular, it's probably one of the creepiest scenes I've seen in a horror movie. Just like chasing this man from the perspective of the werewolf. It's so well done. But yeah, no, it's one I think about all the time and when it comes around to this season, and I hope it gets another resurgence because it feels like it's kind of slipping off the map a bit in terms of horror movies.
I have just always loved The Innkeepers, which is the same director as, X and
X and
Maxine and
Pearl.
blah, 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 but
Oh.
it's a really good slow burn, and the first time I ever saw it, it scared the shit out of me. This woman and a dude, and they're working at a hotel, and it's the hotel is closing, so it's the last weekend, so it's like just the two of them, and they have to like sleep there and man the front desk, and they're simultaneously trying to like investigate ghosts in the hotel. Like the guy like runs a website for paranormal discovery. I love to rewatch it. It really is scary.
It's one of the most recent ones that has like affected me in terms of horror, and like I've said multiple times how much horror doesn't really affect me, but like this one did, and it's Saint Maud. I've brought it up many times
Banger.
before, but yeah, it's like still one of the most recent ones that actually got to me. Maybe some things about like the setup I wasn't that into, but like yeah, overall I think I really, really just love that movie. The more I think about it, it's fucking great. It's so creepy, and the main performance is amazing. It just knows how to build all of its shit up so well, I think.
It is really unsettling.
We love Saint Maud on this podcast.
love
We'll
it.
always sing the praises of Saint Maud.
Yes, we will.
We do.
I have yet another horror sequel that is pretty fun. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember liking it. I don't think it's my favorite of this franchise, but it's probably easily second or third favorite, and that's Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives.
Absolute banger.
Crazy because it follows up such a string of like, in my opinion, bad, like just like forgettable movies. Like I don't really care for the second, third, fourth, fifth even that much, but
I really like the fourth.
I can't remember it. But is that the one with Crispin Glover?
Yeah.
Okay, that one's okay. That one's pretty fun. It has its good moments, but like this one, it embraces the craziness, I think, of the franchise. Literally, like that's how it initiates, is the fact that he gets struck by lightning and fucking resurrects like as a fucking like zombie. So it just starts off batshit crazy, and it makes no sense, but that's why it's good. Very entertaining. Jason X is still my favorite, just because it's the craziest. I do love Jason Lives, and it's a good October watch for sure.
The next one I've talked about on the podcast already, but it's one that I can't get out of my mind at all. I know Julia and Quinn have seen it. Lake Mungo. I've seen it
hell
once, but it's a film that like my mind goes back to so often since I watched it last year. There's scenes in the film that I vividly remember like how I felt while watching it for the first time. And in kind of trying to get back into like creative writing and stuff, it's kind of been inspirational to me in how the story is told through the acting and what you're shown. Unreliable narrator quality to it, where like you feel like the actors are influenced by being on camera because it's like a mockumentary style, and I really appreciate that about it. Above all, it's one of the scariest horror films I've ever seen, and it's also deeply sad, which is my favorite type of horror. I love sad horror movies that just scare the shit out of you, and Lake Mungo in my mind right now is kind of the peak of that. I listen to the soundtrack so often, like whatever is available on YouTube, I love listening to the soundtrack. It's one where like I give it a 9 out of 10 on my first watch, and just because of the sheer amount of times I think about it, I just had to up it to a 10. I can't remember the last time a horror film has affected me so much.
Yeah, this is my last one. It's a little basic. It was on the variety list that Quinn brought up earlier, but I do just love the Blair Witch Project. I think it's always fun to rewatch it. It really paved the way for found footage, and I do think the ending is really scary. I think if you're like totally immersed and you're watching it, it's pretty creepy, and I like that they never give the monster away. But the fights in the movie can get a little bit irritating for me, I think.
That's why I didn't like it, I think, my first time. I couldn't get past that, and maybe it was just hyped up too much for me. But I would love to rewatch it. I hope I like it more.
I put the movie that got me into horror, I guess, because it was the first horror movie I saw, The Woman in Black.
Love The Woman in Black. That movie scared the shit out of me.
It scared the shit out of me at first as well, because it was my first ever horror movie, pretty much. I remember being alone in my house. I'll watch a horror movie, I guess. I've never done it before, but I'll try.
Oh my god.
And I was like, oh my god, this is so scary. I did get like genuinely scared at The Woman in Black when I first watched it. Watching it back now, nowhere near as scary, but the atmosphere is still great. Like really well shot, I think, and the locations are great. I also just love like the fact that he has to go constantly like back and forth on that like really long path to the house. It's just really like creepy, and like how isolated it is and everything. It has some moments where you're like, oh, that's not scary at all, and that's aged badly. Still one that I have to bring up because I do it has a place in my heart.
Well, my last one is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, close to top 10 probably. It's popular, but not a ton of people seem to talk about it, kind of like American Werewolf in London. It's like almost slipping away out of people's minds, but I wish more people talked about it, and that's the Omen, the original Omen from 1976. Not the first horror movie I ever saw, but I have vivid memories of watching it as a kid, and it was probably part of one of the first horror movies I ever saw. I think the main scene that stuck with me was like the nanny jumping off the building.
Yeah.
It's 70s horror. 70s is my probably favorite decade for movies in general, but especially for horror as well. Fall, kind of October vibes as well. I don't know why, it just has them. And the soundtrack is great. The tone of the movie, it's just like this impending doom, and it's so kind of disturbing, the idea of it as well. Like having a kid that you're not sure is like the Antichrist or not. And it's like so big in scale, but it's also so small. Yeah, it is. I love it. I always come back to it. To me, it's a perfect horror movie. The sequels, they're kind of fun in their own ways, but they don't nearly live up to the original. So check out The Omen, the original one.
The last one I'll pick is kind of the most recent horror movie that I've kind of fallen in love with, like to a degree where I'd call it one of my favorite films of all time now, Possession. I watched it for the first time, I think 2-3 years ago. I think it was during COVID. I think I give it like a 9 out of 10 or so, but I rewatched it recently and it just took on a whole new life for me. It's another one where I kind of think about it every day since I rewatched it. There's nothing that I can really fault about it, and a rewatch just did nothing but great things for it. The main two performances are two of the best, not even just in horror, I think ever. Like Isabella Gianni in it, she is like I think everyone knows the subway scene, but there are so many other scenes in the movie where she just gets to absolutely shine. Without giving too much away, there's two aspects to the character she has to play, and I really love how she handles both of them. Like obviously the crazed, I don't know what to say without spoiling it, but she gives a fucking crazy performance and I love it. and it's been talked about to death now. It's gotten to the point where it is considered like an absolute classic by most horror fans now, and I'm glad it is, because it is a very wild and out there movie, and there's nothing quite like it. That last half an hour or so is one of the most fucking insane things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I need to
Sam
see
Neill
this
on the
movie.
fucking motorcycle, that shot of
my
him, oh my
God.
god, it is insane. And then that just last 10 minutes or so, there's nothing quite like it. Perfect movie to me now, and I think I placed it in my top 30 after I rewatched it. Another layer of my apprehension to watching Smile is that the director of Smile is doing a remake of Possession.
Oh.
Main topic. It was my privilege to do the spooky episode this year. I suggested that we watch 5 vampire movies. I picked Nosferatu the Vampyre from 1978, The Hunger from 1983, Near Dark from 1987, Vampire's Kiss from 1988, and The Addiction from 1995. As tradition, we'll start from the oldest film of the bunch. Nosferatu the Vampyre is directed by Werner Herzog, who I've never seen a film of before this, actually. I've heard Grizzly Man's one of the best documentaries ever.
It's good.
Putting it simply, Nosferatu the Vampyre is about Count Dracula, and he wants to buy a house, and Jonathan Harker, he's the man for the job. What did we think about this one, boys and girl?
I liked it.
It's a banger.
Except for Renfield.
Oh, no,
except for
come
Renfield.
on.
Sorry.
I
Come
fucking
on.
love
So
Renfield.
annoying.
We're not jumping on the Renfield.
my
train.
God.
That is very annoying.
I loved Renfield. He's not in it too much.
He was a creepy little fucking guy. I loved him.
So many beautiful like atmospheric scenes, and Isabella Johnny is so good, and then Renfield, every time he dropped in I was just like, you're shitting on this movie.
I like characters where they're just losing their mind and that's their
Yeah.
whole character and stuff. That's interesting.
Not
But,
when
like,
losing your
it's-
mind is laughing like an idiot.
Yeah, it's just manic laughing and
Yeah.
really annoying.
It's very classical. You could expect this from something like the old Dracula. I'm sure I'm sure Renfield is just as crazy.
Probably.
And he's a better Renfield than fucking Nicolas Hoult anyway, I can say that much. But yeah, no, this really fucking impressed me. I think this is my favorite vampire movie ever.
Yeah, it's
I
one of
love
my
this.
favorites too.
Like Julie was saying, just the atmosphere, it's so thick. And I love how kind of naturalistic it feels, like with how it's shot and like the look of the movie and like the colors. It feels very down to earth despite being, mystical, and especially that last 45 minutes or so where it kind of gets very bleak and dour. I had very little issues with this movie. I thought this was absolutely fucking phenomenal. Mainly due in part to, like, the performances are really, really great. Like Bruno Ganz is Isabella Gianni, and Klaus Kinski is probably my favorite vampire in a movie. Like, he looks like Nosferatu, obviously, and this movie is a weird mix of both the Dracula story and the Nosferatu story, because this isn't like a direct remake of the F.W. Murnau movie. It incorporates elements of both into this, and I really like that a lot. The look of Klaus Kinski is obviously the classic Nosferatu we all know, whether it's from the original movie or from SpongeBob or the new movie.
Hell yeah.
He was really, really creepy, and he unsettled me so much in this movie, and I loved his performance.
Yeah.
He is really incredible. I guess we can't keep talking about Klaus Kinski unless we talk about him being a total
Dick.
gross fucker.
Yeah, and gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For as talented and incredible as he is, it really sucks that his daughter accused him of sexually abusing
Yeah.
her when she was really little.
I didn't know that.
I think he wrote an autobiography that she contested, and then she wrote an autobiography detailing the abuse. A very poignant piece of cinematic history, and his relationship with Werner Herzog seems really complicated and complex. I've always wanted to see that documentary about the two
Oh,
of
yeah.
them.
I mean, yeah, Herzog, hates him, doesn't he?
Yeah,
But he
I
kept
think
fucking
that
working with him.
Yeah, because he's good. He's so good, and
I was reading about the movie, and Werner Herzog was trying to just constantly piss him off or rile him up or make him so that he'd have no energy by the time that they would shoot. He's just such an animated person apparently, and so
Yeah.
hard to calm down and shit. So he was just
you can't
we
wrangle
need
that guy.
a stripped back performance from you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you can tell, he's so controlled in such an interesting way, and it seems like every time he's on screen, there's so much happening, behind his facade, it's just...
Yeah.
But you do feel that really tired element in his character,
Yeah.
especially when he talks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
he's so slow with everything, and
The way he moves, and the way he speaks, and I love how his performance has this, it's a very tired performance, and there's also an element of that longing, and there's so much you can take from his performance in terms of how he feels, and I love performances like that. Easily a standout, but I was shocked by just how well defined Jonathan Harker and Isabella Gianni's characters are as well. I thought they were just as good, especially Bruno Ganz. I thought he was phenomenal
Ganz
in
was
this
great.
Yeah,
movie.
he's great.
Hell yeah.
it's just that's Verge.
I was literally thinking that too. Because it's fucking Verge, young Verge.
I know. But we thought he looked like
Javier Bardem. Yeah,
yes,
we kept saying he
looks
looked like
Javier
Javier
Bardem. Yeah.
His face is so like
Yes.
gaunt and long,
And
like
his
Javier
chin
Bardem.
and everything, I was like, holy crap. Isabella Gianni like took my breath away in several scenes because we were talking about how she's emulating this silent film era of acting with her eyes and her body and everything.
Yeah, she's incredibly expressive.
It is, and she takes they all take their time, like especially her and Klaus Kinski soak up the scene and they're not rushing, like it's truly like watching art. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you cannot
Absolutely.
go without mentioning like the cinematography in this fucking movie as well. Like
So
just
beautiful.
every
Incredible.
shot and
Oh my
location.
God.
Oh my god! And the shots of like the ship later on in the film,
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, this is gorgeous.
It's
like, what the hell?
incredible. Even when the ship slowly like docks into the town, I'm like, oh god.
That's a scene that fucking scared me. That
Yeah.
scene genuinely scared me with how it's presented. We're gonna shoot like a fucking ship basically crashing into the side of a wall. But it's creepy as fuck.
Apparently those like shots of the bats in slow motion were like taken from a documentary apparently. Yeah, I was like, that's really beautiful, but
Yeah,
I
we
was like,
love those
how
shots.
did they shoot that? I'm like, oh, it's from a documentary. I was like, that makes a bit more sense, kind of.
Those interstitials do
I
stand
was
out.
transfixed by those
Yeah, they
shots.
set a
like,
tone with the music, and I was in a
I
trance.
really love the
creepy.
music. Like it's very classical, but at the same time it does incorporate like guitars and stuff as well, which I liked. Like just like pizzicato guitars. Even in like the grand scheme of horror, the atmosphere of this movie is just so striking. It's a lot of the reason why it's stuck with me, and a lot of the reason why I love it so much, really. And Herzog's direction, like what I was saying earlier with like how naturalistic it feels, I love that approach to it. It doesn't feel overly mystical. Like even when you're meeting Nosferatu for the first time, like when Jonathan Harker comes up to the castle, it doesn't feel like the movie views him as a monster. More so
no,
like
it's
another
just kind of
human
very
being.
simple. He's kind of just like standing in the doorway, like, hey, what's up?
He looks so creepy. It was just like how is he? How were like alarm bells not going on? He was just
I
like,
know,
oh
I
yeah,
was-
here's
that's
the
whole
floor
time.
plan.
You had to know this guy was a vampire. You had to have known. You see those long ass fingers and nails and shit, his pointy ears. Like, this guy's a vampire.
And his teeth.
I do appreciate that they don't do that.
Yeah,
I
they
do
don't make a big
appreciate
deal
that.
about it.
Yeah.
They don't make a huge, dramatic fucking reveal.
Yeah, he has a reputation, but nobody's like 100% sure.
Oh my god, that scene early on where like he's eating dinner at like the place he stops off at, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to Count Dracula's castle, and then there's that comedy shot of just like everyone turning to face him.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Love the fucking journey he makes too, like along that way. Like that's a part of that. Like just
Yeah, I
watching
love
his whole journey there. That's when a
movies
lot of
like
that
this.
amazing cinematography comes into.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
God, it's just such a like. It just feels so timeless.
I
It
love
really
movies
does.
like this where they really utilize the locations like that a lot.
Yeah.
And just make it really feel like you're there.
Just makes it feel so much more epic too. I love it.
I was laughing though because, he's like, hey, can I get a ride from that one guy? And the guy's like, no. And he's like, fine,
Yeah.
I'll just walk. And then he's almost there and the guy's like, all right.
Do we have to get into spoilers or something?
We can get into spoilers.
Spoilers for Nosferatu The Vampyre.
What you were saying earlier about Isabella Gianni's performance and how expressive she is, like any of, like the first scene where she meets Nosferatu, like that scene in like the bathroom or the bedroom or whatever it was, that's another scene that really creeped me out. Like just seeing his shadow on the walls and like seeing the door open, and they really played around with like the you can't see vampires through mirror thing.
Yeah.
Just his whole conversation with her, it's not something that I really expected from this film, honestly. Like it felt very natural and down to earth.
Right.
The way that she was reacting to him, like she was just having a conversation with her, like very normally.
I think my favorite part of the movie was her whole montage going downtown thinking that the plague was
Yeah.
killing everybody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when those people invite her to dinner, they're like, well, this is like our last supper, and then it just shows the table in the next scene and it's like all covered in rats and like
I love just seeing the whole city infested with rats. Like just
Oh
that
my
whole
God, it was
sequence.
Yeah.
towards
The
end.
imagery
It
is
was
really
so
striking.
that
insane.
song was really pretty too. I really loved that music.
Dracula bringing the plague to this this village, little town, I suppose. I didn't expect it to go as far as it did as
Yeah,
well either.
same. It was really
Like
disturbing.
that's the entire third act,
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh yeah, Dracula's here and he's brought the Black Plague with him, and it feels so despondent. Those shots of like people just carrying coffins, they're so beautiful, but also like when Isabella Gianni goes up to them and she's like, oh, I know what's causing this, and the guy's like, oh yeah, the council's disbanded, everyone's dead. You just get such a bleak feeling
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really
And
scary.
I also really like Jonathan Harker's transformation, which
Yeah.
is another thing I didn't expect.
I didn't expect that either.
Like
at
him
all.
slowly becoming a vampire until at the end he basically takes up the mantle as the new Dracula.
I love seeing him just rotting away like that. It's really cool.
Well, I love how he had to get the maid to like clean off that like he couldn't step outside of that little circle, right? That he was trapped in basically, and so he had her clean it up. I love how you don't even see the death of Nosferatu. Like the guy walks up there with the stake, and then he just comes back down with the bloody stake. Like, I just love how it wasn't even like built up to some big thing. He just walks down like, yep, he's dead, I killed him. And then that guy, I fucking love the scene where they're trying to arrest him.
It was very funny, but not in a distracting way.
No.
It kind of took from the movie.
Yeah, it was just, it was like odd.
And that fucking, the shot of Nosferatu against like the sails of the boat. Such a beautiful image. I don't know who the cinematographer is for this. I think he did mostly Herzog films anyway, but Jesus Christ, he knew how to fucking frame a picture.
Yeah.
Even when Nosferatu's carrying the coffins to the church, like, you know the wide shot I'm talking about with the fucking shadow on the walls. Like, I suppose that's the closest this film comes to like recreating the famous shot from like the original Nosferatu.
That's what I was thinking.
Creepy too, how he's like, oh, I'm just gonna get on this boat and like make my way to Lucy, and Jonathan's like, fuck, I gotta like get back home.
That was so creepy. Just the whole it was just like a lot of moments like that were just kind of disturbing, as well as like the moment, like it's kind of goofy in a way. Nosferatu like comes into Harker's room, and he just like slowly walks towards him and then just has his hands out. It's like, it's so like theatrical. It's like a fucking play, you know? But I don't know. I just thought that was really creepy, the way he like tries to shield his neck.
Like the whole dinner scene that is filled with so much tension, and it's carried by the way that Kinski just performs. The tiny cut. He starts freaking out like, oh my god, we gotta fix this right now. I know how to do it if you just let me suck your blood.
It's an age-old remedy. Give me that hand.
When he turns around and then he instantly whips back and just like starts sucking on it. That's such a great moment in his performance, and I really love that.
Yeah.
Everything after that, where he's just like kind of stalking him over to the other side of the room with like his hands out,
and he kind of throws the chair. I really loved that.
Yeah, if there's not much else we want to say about it, we can get into ratings.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you straight. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. This is easily probably the best vampire movie I've ever seen. Will probably be one of my favorite horror movies someday. I loved everything about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna say the same.
I think I could see it being a 10 if I rewatched it though, to be honest, because there's just so much there.
So I'm going with the 10 out of 10 as well. The cinematography, the score, the look of the movie, it's timeless. Probably the best vampire movie I've ever seen as well. I don't love vampire movies, but it's probably the best one I've seen.
The second least recent one is The Hunger from 1983, directed by Tony Scott. You may know him from hit films like Unstoppable and Top Gun.
Yeah.
He made a fucking weird gothic vampire movie in the 80s. It was his first movie. It's basically about an accomplished cellist. His name is David Bowie, and he suddenly starts to age fast because he's a vampire. He's promised eternal life, and one day he's like, what the fuck? I'm aging so fast, and he needs to seek the help of Susan Sarandon, who's like an aging specialist or something, to get his Bowie looks back.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I've kind of wanted to see this for a while, mainly because like I'm a huge David Bowie fan, and I've always wanted to get into his like acting work with Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, and Man Who Fell to Earth. I kept wanting to say The Man Who Sold the World. Yeah, he's not in this too much, but I thought he was really good in it. I was happy with how much Bowie content I got from this.
He's one of the best parts.
I'd say so. I think his performance is pretty fucking terrific in this.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know my boy could act like that. He was fucking great in this. But this feels so quintessentially 80s. Like, I can see that being a detriment to some people with just how 1980s this is, with like the montages and the music and stuff. I'm a big fan of Bauhaus, and I loved that it just opened with a performance of Bela Lugosi's Dead. Like, that whole scene, I really liked just the vibes of it. It was like a goth club or something.
Yeah.
And you just got to see Catherine Deneuve. Is that how you say her name?
I would say it that way.
French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Catherine Deneuve and David Bowie just kind of looking down on the dance floor.
I kind of was like expecting to not like this movie very much.
Me too.
But I was actually like, okay, this opening scene kind of like slaps.
It does slap.
And, you know, the attack was like a little bit silly, but after that, I was pretty hooked on the story, honestly.
I wasn't like sold on the beginning. Like, it was taking a bit for me to get into it. Once it kind of hits a certain point, I was like, okay, it's picking up steam a lot more now, and I'm like really enjoying the direction it's going in. But I think it does maybe for the first part have those elements where it's like a bit too much like indulgence, maybe.
A little stylistic.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this movie, it was originally meant to be a Ridley Scott movie,
Oh.
and it ended up being his brother's first movie.
Tony Scott is Ridley Scott's brother.
Blew
I
my
didn't know
mind.
that.
Blew
I didn't
my
know
mind.
they were
Blew my
brothers.
fucking mind.
Did you not know that?
I
No,
didn't
we
even
didn't
they
know
were
that.
brothers.
Interesting though, because it has a little bit of a Blade Runner vibe. If Blade Runner was good, sorry guys, just kidding.
What the?
It does feel very Ridley Scott at times.
I kind of wish it was directed by Ridley Scott, because I mean, I guess I'll say I didn't really enjoy this movie that much, and I think that's because Tony Scott is just not for me. His directing style, it feels so 80s. Like, I don't mind the 80s feel, but I'm one of those people, I guess, that it did kind of rub the wrong way. It just feels so... I wasn't that hooked on the story, and a lot of scenes did kind of just drag on and on. Bit style over substance, and I don't know, I just couldn't get on board with that. That's just a Tony Scott problem for me in general. Like, even Top Gun.
I mean, Top Gun
I
sucks.
hate Top Gun.
I
hate
love
it.
Top Gun. I love it.
But yeah, that's the same vibe though. Like that, it's so 80s. All of his movies have that I've seen from him have that feel.
I can agree with that for Top Gun, but here I feel like it was only for a certain amount of the movie, and the rest I was kind of interested in. So
I mean, I was really like,
I
why
think it's-
is he getting old?
I think it's just that like section of it is what really interested me,
I love
especially
that
that
section.
entire section where he's like in the hospital.
Oh my god,
I'm
he's
like,
just aging.
and the way that it's edited
Yeah.
too, with like the shots cutting back and forth, it's just really creepy.
It's easily the creepiest scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It was the best
And-
part. Yeah.
Yeah, like being interspliced with like the monkey and stuff as well.
Right.
Like that's really unsettling too, I think.
Yeah, I thought so too. I do really like Catherine Deneuve. Is that how we're saying it?
We're going with that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going with it.
Deneuve.
I really loved her in this movie. I felt like she was really captivating when she was speaking, and I loved all the piano parts.
I thought she was good, but she's a bit bland.
She's kind of just like a classy old vampire, like the head vampire, for lack of a
I just
better
wanted
term, I suppose.
some level of flair maybe to her character. I feel like if you're a vampire, you need some like kind of interesting flair going on, and she was
Yeah.
just kind of like
She
stale.
did. She had that statue from like 2,000
Oh yeah,
years
she
ago.
had like art.
That's
from-
her
from-
flair.
from her-
That's her flair.
I agree with Liam. Like it all just felt so subdued and just it needed something in there to like liven it up for me. Yet I wasn't into the story. I thought the look of the movie people probably love or hate. I didn't think it looked great. I don't know, just that whole tint of blue over half of like a lot of it.
I love the look of this movie.
I don't think it's an amazing looking movie, but I think some parts do look great.
I do think that it was pretty unique for like I could see it. It's almost like could have fallen into the typical 80s thing, but there was like no lights on ever. Like it was just natural lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of neat
So
to see.
cool.
I think. Yeah.
I guess sometimes that can make it feel a bit like tired, maybe.
You could really see
Yeah.
the cigarette smoke in lighting like that though, which was cool.
I can kind of see what you mean about like being style over substance, I guess. Okay, pardon the pun. I think there's a lot to sink your teeth into with this movie in terms of like.
Nice, good one.
No, seriously, in terms of like how it deals with the concept of like aging, and it can kind of be like a metaphor for like terminal illness, where like Bowie's character, like, is that a spoiler to say?
I
don't
feel like
know.
we
We
should
might
get
as
into
well. Do you wanna-
spoilers.
Yeah,
It's
we
really
have to
hard
get
to
into
talk
spoilers.
about this without.
All right. Spoiler.
Spoilers for the hunger.
By the way, the old age makeup, flawless.
Oh my God,
Absolutely
yeah.
I
flawless.
couldn't believe
Holy
it.
shit,
I was
it's
like, he looks
unbelievable.
old.
He does. He does look old.
He really did. I was
does.
like, whoa.
I love the concept of him being like with the girl, with the photographer girl.
Oh,
where,
Oh, yeah.
like,
that made me so
yeah.
sad. But he was so
His
desperate.
performance is so good in that scene, though.
Yeah.
I love how it can be interpreted as like he has a need for blood, but also I kind of see it as a thing of like, oh, does Catherine Deneuve like want to replace her
Yes,
with me?
that's what I thought too.
That
It's
sort of
like,
thing.
okay, well, I'm just gonna nip this in the bud, because I think he knows on some level that she's phasing him out.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it's
And I
It's
really
such an
appreciate
interesting
that
concept.
aspect of it. Like I was saying about like illness, like terminal illness, being in that kind of state when you're like that age, let's say, like you'd be thinking of, oh yeah, what's my partner going to do when I'm gone, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like that kind of jealousy that kind of comes with it, like your own mortality.
Precisely.
And that's the stuff in the movie that I really fucking loved.
And I feel like that's what made me realize that I was loving it so much, is it had so many deep themes with what was going on. And
But it feels like it's not so obvious. It's like the audience can pick
Yeah.
out these things.
if you're immersed in it, then you're like picking it up. I'm sure Quinn, you like picked up on this stuff too, but like to your credit, I do think that the stylization or like the era of something can really turn me off to
Yeah.
it and make me less receptive to it. So I do.
Yeah.
I
Prime prime example, Top Gun. It's just like so
Exactly.
80s, and I can't handle
It is the
It's
quintessential 80s movie, to be
Yeah,
fair.
I just in 80s is a vibe that just like I don't know. I don't love it's making me realize I don't love the 80s. Like I liked some movies from the 80s, but the style of the 80s and the sound of
You
it.
like Jason Lives?
Yeah, I like Jason Lives. No, there's exceptions for sure, but like the general vibe of the 80s.
I think there's a style to every era that can be done well.
Yeah,
There's
it can be
good
done
good
well or
aspects
not,
and bad.
I don't know if like the stylization of an era is like enough to turn me off a movie if it's captivating enough.
But it was, yeah, that wasn't the only thing I guess that turned me off about it though. It was the fact it was not only the style and the aesthetic of it that I didn't like, but also the story I just was not invested in really. And also the direction the story went. Like, you know, the whole time you assume it's going away of like they're gonna cure David Bowie's old age. And then he just kind of fucks off for the rest of the movie. And that just kind of dwindles away. And then all of a sudden it's about like, oh no, lesbian vampire affair. And it's like, oh, now this lady's dead.
That's where
like, I was like, where the fuck?
It just lingers a little too much, and I think that it could have been realistic that she was choosing, like Miriam was like, okay, she's my next partner. And it was creepy to see her use the same verbiage and everything to try to get her to be happy with the decision. But like, it was just too much like farting around.
It was just lingering. It was very like, yeah, it just felt like it was padding the runtime for me personally. Like it just, the shots lingered a lot. And it's still only like, what, an hour and a half? I mean, it didn't feel like enough for me to warrant a movie. I don't know. That's just me. I couldn't get into it.
A little subtlety there, I think, would have made it a higher score.
The sex scene was going on just kind of too long.
Fucking way too long.
I kind of liked leading up to it where like Miriam's playing the piano, but then it was just a little too obvious. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're gonna like
very out of nowhere.
I disagree. I really like that stuff.
I bet you do.
I just no, not just for that. I love the two sides of this movie. I loved the Bowie side of it, and I really liked the wife finding a new partner. But I also really was interested in the way that Susan Sarandon's character rejected it as well.
I did like that a lot. Confused though when they kiss and her neck gets stabbed. I thought like Miriam was stabbing her, but she had stabbed herself.
Oh yeah, that was a bit confusing.
Yeah, it was a little
Yeah, I think it's the way it was shot. Kind of.
Yeah, the way it's edited and shot.
I think it was more
sometimes,
the editing,
it's hard
yeah.
to tell what the hell is happening. Catherine Deneuve's death. I liked it only because it was so goofy, because it literally lasted like 20 seconds and you can hear the scream getting looped, and I thought that was funny. So like that's kind of why I liked it.
I love that shit unironically. That was badass. Like all her past lovers just coming out of their coffins and fucking attacking her. It doesn't fit with the vibe of the rest of the movie, I think. And that was very bombastic and very loud. Like even her going up to the attic.
Yeah.
The fucking wind is going crazy, and like those beautiful drapes are just like fucking going all over the place.
There were so many drapes. This is sort of where I have a bone to pick with some of these movies. What is a vampire? And what makes a vampire live forever or die? And it's like she fell down the stairs and died.
Like a lot of these vampire movies have like different rules for what vampire.
She literally
would be or
just
what
fell
affects
and then
it.
started aging rapidly.
You
for some
stake
reason.
through the
Weird.
heart, cut off their head, push them down the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a kind of consistent thing throughout vampire movies in this Catherine Deneuve is the head vampire. And in vampire lore, that is how you kill vampires, is you kill the head vampire.
Yeah.
I do like how kind of inconsistent the rules are throughout like vampire films. I like that other vampire movies can feel that they can take those kind of creative liberties and kind of making their own vampires. You know, morphing them to fit around their own movie. The only really consistent things about vampire, they need blood, they're afraid of sunlight. I think those are the two things that you need for like an actual vampire. This kind of is what I think of when I think about vampire movies, because with vampires, I think they're an inherently kind of romantic type of monster.
Yeah.
You know, biting the neck, it's very like, and you know, drinking blood, it feels very intimate and, you know, sexual. And I think this kind of gets to the gist of that more than the others, and I think maybe that's why I kind of love this movie so much, in that it does go heavy on that. And like, especially, you know, you're talking about the sex scene between Susan Sarandon and Catherine Deneuve. That's kind of why I really enjoyed that scene, because it does kind of play into my own preconception of vampires. I just thought it was shot beautifully as well, and with the ending with her falling down the stairs and dying, I don't know how else they're going to end it. The only reservation I do have with the ending, I don't like that Susan Sarandon's still alive. How is she still alive?
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
It's not really a happy ending for her either. Like, you know, the last shot of her is just like, you know, more drapes, and she has like a family of some sort, and then she just goes out to the balcony and looks over the fucking city.
Yeah.
I wish it ended on the shot of the coffin that had Catherine Deneuve in it.
Yeah,
But also like all the vampires rapidly decaying after she died. Love that.
Oh, yeah,
I
that
love
looked
so
really
much.
cool.
The effects were fantastic.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. I agree. It was pretty creepy too. Like they were kind of scary.
I give this a 9 out of 10. I fucking love this. Like, it's flawed for sure, but I just love the vibes, and I love gothic shit.
It wasn't really for me, just the vibe. Tony Scott movies, he just hasn't made a movie I've actually liked yet, and I've actually seen like at least 6 or 7 of his movies. Anyway, he's just not really a director that's for me, I can tell, and so 4 out of 10.
I think I will go with a 6 out of 10. I did like it. I think I liked it a bit more yesterday, but the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know. It's really just that second half that starts to drag it down a bit for me.
I think that I would go a little bit higher and do 7 out of 10. Was surprised at how immersed in it I got.
We didn't even talk about it. Willem Dafoe showed up at one point. What the fuck was
yeah.
up with
Oh
that?
yeah, I was meant to talk about that.
Did I already forget about this?
Did you miss?
Did you
Willem
miss
Dafoe?
Did I
Willem
miss
Dafoe?
it?
It's literally
Which
one
part,
shot.
which
You would've
scene?
missed
I'll
it.
probably remember. Oh, second phone booth youth. That's who he was. That's how you know it's bad, is if I forget Willem Dafoe showed up, then that's how you know
Yeah,
I just
that's
wasn't
bad.
feeling the movie.
Near Dark from 1987, directed by Catherine Bigelow. Boy meets girl, girl turns boy into vampire, and now he has to deal with her family. Her crazy fucking family.
Yep.
That's the best way I can describe Near Dark. Gothic, southern gothic, neo-noir type.
Yeah.
Not neo-noir.
Neo-Western
But
or
it has that
something, yeah.
neo-western. That's
Yeah.
the term I'm more looking
Yeah.
for. This is my second time watching it. Like, this and one after Vampire's Kiss are the only ones I'd seen before. I really, really love Near Dark. And I think it's a very unique vampire film with how, like, western it is. Almost kind of like a road trip movie as well as, like, a romance. But I just really like how it blends, like, western and romance and action and horror.
I liked it. I thought it was good. It's funny, like it almost had the reason I didn't really like The Hunger that much was just that 80s feel. Like the first 30 minutes I was really iffy on. I feel like the first 30, 45, it takes a bit to pick up for me, but once it hits like the halfway point or there's a certain scene, like when we get to it, that I was like, okay, now I'm fucking having fun with this. Like now I'm enjoying this. And from then on, I was enjoying it. I don't know, Catherine Bigelow is just great. Like I wish she did more horror movies too, you know?
Like my first watch, I wasn't crazy about the first half an hour, but on rewatch, I did really come to like that first half an hour and kind of the build up to that scene you're talking about. But I do really like that whole build up, their date or whatever, and them in the car and just talking, like her just kind of freaking out about like, oh yeah, I gotta get home.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh yeah, we can just slow down, I'll drive you home, don't worry. It's performed very well by those two actors. One thing that's kind of surprising about this movie, I don't know if you guys will agree, but this kind of seems like a movie where the main character would just be like a boring blank slate, but I really like the main character in this movie.
Just feels so opposite. Like I love westerns and I would have loved the mashup, and I mean I felt like they were so boring, and they meet and he's like, you're pretty, and she's like, meh, like she's mumbling, and they don't even talk about anything like substantial, and then she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like, you know, do what I am gonna do. Like I don't know, I just don't get it.
There's really no like
I'm not drawn to
development
them
there.
as lovers at all. The best part of this movie is Bill Paxton. And Lance
Yes.
Henriksen's
Yes.
To no one's
I'll agree with
surprise. Like in a movie like this with those two fucking boring leads, oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's
Oh my
like,
God,
of course
I
Bill
know. I was
Paxton's
like-
gonna stand out.
It's a triple Aliens reunion.
This feels like a bad like multiverse or something. I don't like it.
Catherine Bigelow is married to James Cameron for a time, and I'm like, were they just married when they made this? And she was like, can I borrow a few of your guys for my weirdo vampire movie?
Yeah, and you even see the aliens like when they're walking by a theater,
Oh.
you can see aliens is playing.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
I wish I liked it more.
This is that like the same thing that Quinn was saying about the last one, but for me, I think like the style is really just
Yeah.
infuriating to me.
It
Like
just
it's
feels
too
flat.
much quirk. It feels too stripped back, and it feels like a James Cameron movie more than a Catherine Bigelow movie to me.
Oh, I don't think so, because James Cameron actually has like round characters
No, but
and like a good
what I mean
story.
is just he like it feels like she's trying to replicate his style there in some ways.
I mean,
Yeah,
to
I
be
can
fair,
see
I
that a
do
little
think
bit.
James Cameron did have a slight hand in this
Oh,
because
yeah.
they were married around the time it came out. I can see what you guys are saying, but like of everyone here, I think I'm more susceptible to like kind of style over substance movies. I do appreciate like a strong style with a movie.
So do I.
I mean, even if it's kind of lacking substance, you know.
I'm that way
I
too.
don't mind
I am
a
that
movie-
way. It just depends on the style,
But
and I guess
I-
that goes down to the person.
Yeah.
Really.
I think so too. And I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
it
know, like
does.
there were definitely some scenes in Near Dark that I thought were really like fun to watch, but not enough throughout the whole thing. Like I felt like the cinematography was a bit boring. I mean, I liked when he took the horse out in the storm I thought that was really pretty.
What about them standing on the hill before they go into the bar?
That is a pretty badass shot. That's the best. Yeah, that's a great shot.
It didn't stand out to me. I feel
Silhouettes.
bad. Maybe I just was kind of like stuck in my feelings or something. But the bar scene really irritates me, except for Bill Paxton.
What?
Really? That's when the movie started getting better for me. Was the bar
Everyone
scene.
just stands around and they're like, "Oh, I guess they're coming for me next." They're all taking turns and they're like, "Watch what I can do." But it's not like crazy enough, you know? Like,
Oh, I thought it was just the right amount of chaotic. I thought it was
that's
just
so
chaotic
funny.
enough for me
I
personally.
agree. That's like the entire turning point of the movie for me. Like that is the scene that made me go, wait, this movie's fucking kicks ass.
Yeah.
Like from then on, I love the movie. Like I think the last hour or so of this movie is perfect.
If I liked the characters more, I probably would have liked that scene more.
yeah.
But the characters were just kind of, they're caricatures.
They're just flat. I don't know. The only character that you even get a backstory on is like Lance Henriksen, because you know he fought in Civil War.
Yeah.
But they all just have that like little like goofy style to their character that makes them like,
Well, I like to put the blood in a glass and drink it, and then it's like, well, I like to like shoot it and suck it out, and like, I don't know.
it's just everyone's doing their unique little thing and like
But they're doing it so slowly and so.
Yeah.
I'm like, what time is
I
it? Like,
love that
Oh
shit
no,
though.
to me that could have gone on and on. I don't know. I just liked that whole scene. Point up until that point, it was a little sleepy for me, or I didn't really know where. That's when I wasn't really caring about the characters, and I wouldn't say I care about the characters, but like I thought they were entertaining from that scene and forward. I don't know. I feel like that one bar scene kind of just encapsulates kind of each of their personalities in a way. It just started at least
Yeah.
bursting with personality. Like that's when Bill Paxton really gets fucking crazy. And I like the little kid character too, Homer.
I really
I
like
think
that
that's
kid.
just kind of a cool idea, having like a little
Yeah.
kid that was turned vampire. So like in reality, he's a lot older than he actually looks. He's like smoking cigarettes and shit with the adults. I just think that's really
how
funny.
unique.
Now there is one part I'm kind of unsure about with the kid.
The-
I think we kind of know which one it is.
Yeah.
With the girl.
At the motel.
oh,
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel
several
about that.
parts.
Well, that's a complicated, way of looking at it, because like in reality he's stuck at that age, but like mentally he is older. So it's like, what do you know?
Weird.
Yeah, I think I'm with Keelan. I just thought that was weird.
I don't know, I just found that whole character really irritating.
I just really dig this movie. Like, I agree that the characters aren't the best, but what I like about this movie is kind of the journey that it takes you on. Like, especially after that bar scene, it just goes crazy. And I love that. I really love that. And again, we were talking about kind of like what is a vampire, what makes a vampire. And I think this toys around with it in an interesting way as well that I've never really, thought of when it comes to vampire movies. We'd probably have to get into spoilers to talk about it.
Spoilers for Near Dark.
I really love the idea of like a blood transfusion
Keelan.
changing a person back to
Keelan, that's-
Keelan. I love it.
But the permanence
love
of
it.
becoming
So
a vampire is
stupid.
why it's such a devastating gothic idea. It's like you become this thing and you can't go back. But they're like, we'll just hook you up to an IV.
It's just
and
his
like,
fucking dad
don't
doing
worry, and you can have a family and live on the farm and everything.
But that's what I meant when it came to like vampire movies having their own rules.
I'm fine with that, but just this one, I felt like it was just, oh, really? That's what you're gonna do with it?
The happy ending kind of feels a bit forced with like him also turning what's her name
Yeah.
back to being human
Yeah.
again after like however long. Again, talking about like vampires and rules and stuff. The whole shootout.
Oh, yeah.
In like the motel.
Fucking love that
I
scene.
love that.
I love how like the bullet holes create the light holes coming in
Yeah.
when the light hits them. I love how this is one of my favorite instances of how light affects the vampires in a movie. Sort of, you just see the flame instantly. It was just so well done.
And I love that too, the way they violently combust, like
Yeah.
whenever their skin hits sunlight. It's probably the most unique way I've seen, like, a vampire being affected by sunlight. It's so violent and so visceral. What was it, Homer exploding at the end?
Oh god, that looks so bad though.
I might
Like
watch it.
when he's like running on fire, I was like, oh my god, that
just
looks
didn't
Yeah.
that
like
does
it,
not look
yeah.
right.
I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I had a pretty good time. The first half, at the bar scene and onward, I was having a pretty good time.
Yeah, I'm going with a 9. I love this movie. I love the vibes of it. I love the action scenes. I really love Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen. This movie vibes with me.
Nice.
I'm gonna go with a 4 out of 10. Sorry.
I'm the same.
A little film called Vampire's Kiss from 1988, directed by Robert Bierman, which follows a poor office worker who is tormented by her boss, who's convinced that he's turning into a vampire. It's ingrained in pop culture, yet no one knows what it is. Nick Cage in this movie is so memeable, and he has become a meme because of it. Scenes in this movie that, like, a direct part of, like, that cringy, like, early 2010s, late 2000s kind of meme culture.
Yeah.
And I think it is a little bit more than that, because this has a reputation of being a so bad it's good movie, and I don't get why, because it's like a straight up comedy, and as a comedy I think it works very well. It's no masterpiece, but it's funny as fuck.
I agree. No, it's fucking hilarious. I've seen it like 3 times probably. I mean, and I always laugh my ass off. It's so fun to watch with other people too.
Wanted to watch this one last because I thought I was going to like it the most. Maybe not the most because of Nosferatu, but I just didn't like it. I think that Nick Cage has some really funny lines, but overall he reminds me of like a really annoying child that can't stop being annoying. And it's like everything I love about Nick Cage is too magnified.
Too much Nick Cage in this movie.
There's too much Nick Cage.
It's just too much.
No
like
such
way
thing.
too much.
And
No, there is such a thing. This movie taught me there is
Yeah.
such a thing as too much Nick Cage. I'm sorry. Like, I was
He's
actually like annoyed. I was like, I don't want to watch this guy anymore. He's really annoying me.
Yeah, I didn't like that plot at all. I thought it was really hard to watch and really infuriating, and I know he's not supposed to be likable, but I just really didn't like his character.
I was on board with it for a while. Like, I was enjoying
The beginning's
it.
funny.
The beginning is funny. I think it's
And
like
that line.
it's very subtle with its humor. It's not like overloading, but like the more it goes on, it just becomes a really big overload of just what is even happening.
There was a good idea there that I wish that it had like expounded upon instead of focusing on the secretary, which I felt like was supposed to be really funny, and maybe in the 80s would have been really funny for an audience, but it just was irritating.
The whole plot is kind of just revolving around him getting this fucking paper back, basically.
Right, and it's like every time he freaks out, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be funny.
That's like the whole movie, isn't it? Like, that's the entertainment factor, just him freaking out at random things. I can't enjoy a movie for that, like a whole movie, but I enjoyed like the setup and everything, and I was saying to Julia, it feels very American Psycho-esque, I think.
And at first I wasn't sure,
does,
but now
yeah.
I really see it.
His accent.
I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. Like, this isn't a perfect movie by any means. I do think I would call it good as a comedy, but like there are like, you know, kind of scenes that just straight up fucking suck and shouldn't be there. But I do really love the concept of it, and I do love the way that Nick Cage plays it, and I like how it kind of has, you know, echoes of like other more famous vampire movies. Like at points he's just like doing like fucking full-on Nosferatu walking.
Yeah.
With him just thinking he's turning into a vampire, I think it just leads to a lot of really funny scenes, and the scenes where he kind of notices something that makes him think he's turning into a vampire. Those are my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Like the mirror scene where he's just looking in the mirror, and like
In the
the
bathroom.
framing of the shot is like, oh, there's a mirror there, and that mirror is reflecting off that mirror, so there's kind of like a wall of mirrors behind him.
Yeah.
I really like that, like as he's freaking out thinking he can't see himself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I really liked those aspects too, but I felt like the way that the movie's layered, when all that starts to come in, it loses its charm for me, because I think if he was just like generally unlikable character, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But I think what ruins the movie for me is the subplot with the secretary, honestly. And it's not just because I'm, you know, like super sensitive. I just felt like it was unnecessary comedy, and all the other stuff would have been so much richer and more like focused.
On rewatch, that stuff did feel like very mean-spirited, like the way he kind of uses her as like maybe a testing ground for like seeing if he really is a vampire, basically begging her to shoot him.
Yeah.
Like not only just like in that scene near the end, but like when she mentions that she has a gun for the first time, and he's like, okay, use it, shoot me.
He pretty much does it constantly, and then he pretends to be
Yeah.
nice constantly. And
I thought it was kind of funny just him showing up at her door though, like with the soup.
yeah,
I
there
thought
were
that was funny.
he was like, I've got soup, you know, like there were some funny parts for sure sprinkled throughout.
He does have funny moments, but he just takes it way too far sometimes. I'm not gonna like spoil the context of the scene or anything, but there's a scene where he's talking to a wall, and I was like, oh my god, just end.
Oh wait, no, I like that.
No, it's so
I
annoying.
like that.
Let's
Yeah,
just
let's
get
get
into
into
spoilers
spoilers.
now.
We might
Spoilers for Vampire's Kiss.
I liked it just because it was like hammering home on the fact like this is all about. I mean, it seems like this movie has no plot. Then again, it is very American Psycho-esque, because what's American Psycho about? It's about a guy who's losing touch with reality, and you don't know really what's real and not. And that's kind of what the end of
those
Vampire's
themes
Kiss
I do
does
like.
to me.
I do like
But-
it, but it's when it's like constantly cutting back to him just talking to a fucking wall and going like, at everything. I'm like, dude, this is just boring. Like, what is this?
I thought it was just hilarious by the end how he was just dragging a fucking wooden stake along and just crying out into the world.
The imagery is
to
funny.
me that was funny.
That concept is interesting too because he like loses his mind by the end of the film, and he seems like someone on drugs just freaking out in New York, just like anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think this movie could have been so much better too, because one of the things that I did kind of like about it is how the vampire, if you're watching it, you could almost think maybe she was never real.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I wish the movie was a bit more focused on that and kind of gotten rid of the secretary subplot.
Yeah.
Because of how mean-spirited that secretary subplot is, because everything surrounding that I do really enjoy. The scenes where she just comes in, where he asks her into his office and he's like, "Oh, have you found the papers yet?" And then he freaks out because of that. Those parts did irritate me and kind of bore me a bit. But everything surrounding that I did get huge enjoyment from, and I just think the image of Nick Cage with like shitty fucking vampire teeth is the funniest thing in the world.
It is funny.
A unique thing for like, I mean, a vampire movie, I guess, where like he has to, you know, make his own teeth rather than growing like the fangs out.
Yeah.
I like that. Even if it was like a straight up vampire movie, I would like that in a actual vampire movie.
I think it does deserve more credit than a so bad it's good movie, because at least it does, like, yeah, the secretary thing, I could have used less of that, even though it did for me allow a lot of funny moments of him freaking out, because I thought it was funny, him freaking out. To me it wasn't too much. To me it was just enough crazy Nick Cage. By the end of it, I think it tries to at least have like some sort of depth or substance to the fact of like talking about whether it's like mental illness or fucking whatever, like the fact that you don't really know. You start feeling bad for him by the end. I kind of feel bad for him at the end when it's like him like losing, just completely lost his fucking mind, but it's interspliced with like how he's in the therapist's office and like, "Oh, we've got a girl for you," and like, you know, this is like everything's so perfect. I don't know. That was an interesting take on a vampire story for me. It's my type of stupid. It just is.
Can respect that. Like, I think I was really surprised at how it struck a wrong chord with me, because I don't feel like I'm ever really too sensitive. I think I already struggle with comedy as a genre, so if it's got something wrong with it, it's hard for me to see past that and overdoing the bit, which I just feel like Nick Cage does in this movie, and it just becomes it became too irritating for me to fully appreciate when he's thinking he's a vampire to like its fullest, which I think I would have enjoyed a lot more if it was a little more dialed back. But I like what you said about the mental illness aspect. I think that it was kind of a dark movie when you think about it. It's got interesting themes, and you know,
there's a lot I like there in concept.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
When watching it, I wasn't really thinking about that kind of stuff. Like, I generally view this as like a straight up comedy. Like, not even so bad it's good, and I think I enjoyed it way more my first time. You know, I do get a lot of mileage out of Nick Cage acting crazy. I'm a simple man, Nick Cage.
Same. I'm with you. I like it for that. Even I'm just gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It's my type of crazy. Objectively, it's not perfect, but I just really enjoy it a lot, so I'd give it like a 9.
At the moment, I'm between a strong 6 and a light 7. I'm leaning more towards a 6. Do enjoy it a lot, and it is a memorable movie, I think.
I will go with the same score as the last one, 4 out of 10. There are things I enjoy there, but yeah.
I really just think it's like a 2 out of 10.
Oof.
I think that there's funny moments, but I don't want to rewatch it. Like, I don't think I'll rewatch Vampire's Kiss. I'll laugh at the memes, and if I see a clip, it's gonna really tickle me, but I have no interest in revisiting.
We do have to bring up the line that made me lose my fucking mind laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, fuck you too. Yeah. That was perfect delivery. Holy shit.
Moving on to 7 years later, Abel Ferrara came out with a film called The Addiction, about a young student, and she turns into a vampire and she suddenly becomes deeply philosophical. Yeah, I've kind of always been interested in this, kind of in the same... I always kind of associated this and The Hunger for some reason. Like, I think I wanted to get into them like around the same time, because I've also wanted to get into like Abel Ferrara's filmography in general, because it seems like he's kind of like a Paul Schrader type director in kind of like his focuses, and he works with Willem Dafoe a lot. And I think this was a strong introduction. This is a striking movie. I really like this one. I don't completely adore it, but I think it's a very unique take on a vampire film, like especially from, I mean, it's not subtle at all with what it's going for, but like its take on like being kind of about drug addiction more so than anything.
Yeah.
I expected it to be a bit more subtle, but like she starts fucking injecting blood at one point and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, we're being that blatant with it, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of like that though. I liked how it was like that's like an interesting spin on the vampire subgenre that you'll probably never see again. It's like vampires injecting blood like it's drugs. Like, and I didn't mind how blunt it was. Like, it's such a parallel to like drug addiction and the need for blood. I don't know. I like how grounded and grimy that was.
The setting is so cool.
Yeah, the setting is fucking great.
I love that
too.
it's just like a New York vampire movie.
Yeah, I love it. The black and white, I actually really love the way the black and white looks on this movie. Like, sometimes I'm like, does it really need to be in black and white? What's the point? But this one just fits. To me, it just fits. I don't know why.
I don't think it needs to be, but it does look pretty good. But that's all it's got going for it.
I feel so bad, but I'm really like, this is
Yeah.
definitely a style over substance if that was ever the case. I saw a really funny review. If I'm ever a vampire, like, I will never turn a philosophy student because
Yeah.
then they become like the most annoying fucking person on the planet.
Oh,
Which
my
I
God.
kind of felt like this whole movie was just annoying people and quotes and pretentiousness.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And it really contradicts itself a lot.
It
Yeah.
just kept trying to give you ideas, and I don't know if it was like, "Oh, figure it out for yourself," but it was just too
Like the line
ideas-y.
between the need for blood and drug addiction, it's like there's such a loss of translation there. I feel like that
You
it just
made a
does
good
not,
point last night. I
It
can't
doesn't
remember.
come to fruition at all. But
Yeah.
I find the lead character incredibly insufferable. Like, oh my god.
She just was like a super cool vampire who's really into like these big ideas.
But I didn't really see her as super cool though.
I
just
think
think
she
she
saw herself
thinks
that
she's
way,
cool.
maybe. Yeah.
She does see herself that way, but again, it's kind of like the influence of drugs, like, and that kind of need for blood. I can see why she was insufferable, and I do see that point of view a lot, really, because there was points in the movie where, like, when it's going on about like its philosophy shit, it's just like, okay, get back to the vampire stuff now. But like some of the stuff I did think was quite thought-provoking in a way. Just generally do like the vibe and the look of this movie, like Quinn was saying about the black and white. I really like the way this movie looks. Again, it's another unique spin on a vampire movie, which I really appreciate. And the way it kind of has its own rules, I suppose, like, you know, can vampires fucking be fed by injecting blood and that sort of thing? It just gave me a decent bit to chew on.
It has some interesting concepts with the vampire stuff, but that wasn't really the main exploration of the movie.
Yeah, I
don't know.
feel like that being a vampire was just like a tool for like trying to expand all of these philosophical ideas on our violent nature, like what we allow to happen to us, like the nihilism and the
The
murder.
movie's nihilistic point of view is one thing I can't get down with, because it's something like, it goes on a lot about, yeah, humans are inherently evil, but I think that is like something that I heavily disagree
Yeah,
with.
I
Yeah.
hate that shit.
Yeah, it was really bleak in that way, and they kept hammering that in.
Yeah, I don't really know if I agree with like the philosophy of the movie, but like I to me that's why it doesn't feel like how The Hunger felt style over substance for me. That's why this didn't really feel that type of style over substance, just because whether I agree with the substance or not, at least it tries to have substance, and I can at least appreciate it for that. And
Yeah,
there
I
was
can
like
too.
thought-provoking shit in there as well, like quotes here and there that really made me like think like, wow, that's actually, I don't know, one of my favorite quotes was and you can see it as pretentious, but I thought it was like, wow, that's really clever. Existence is the search of relief from our habit, and our habit is the only relief we can find. Like, to me, I was like, damn, like that's pretty fucking deep.
It has moments where you're like, yeah, you can find this really thought-provoking, but I just think the way it's presenting itself and the way the main character is presenting herself.
You know, she's not the most likable or relatable, protagonist, but I didn't hate her. I don't know. I thought like the performance itself was really good. Like I thought all the
Her
performances were really
performance
good.
is
But
pretty good most of the time, but sometimes it is hard to watch. Like,
I just can't get down with her like smoking a cigarette with sunglasses in the bathroom. I was
The
like,
bathroom
shut
scene
up.
was-
You just think you're so cool right now?
yeah.
Oh my god. And what is it with vampires and black sunglasses, by the way? That's a thing.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
It
as
looks
fuck,
pretty cool,
is what
but
the thing.
yeah. We should have all
But
worn black
here, I
sunglasses.
don't
Why
know,
didn't we do
it's-
that?
Yeah.
And they wear sunglasses because, you know, the light.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's another thing with drug addicts. Like, it changes their physical appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another use for the sunglasses, where like she wants to hide her eyes because, you know,
Yeah.
she's fucked up. But I think the peak of this movie for me is the scene with Christopher Walken.
yeah.
I thought the dynamic between him and her, I thought that was very interesting, and some of the things that he was talking about in... Oh, that's kind of a spoiler.
Let's just get spoilers now,
we
because
can
we
get
don't
into
want to
spoilers.
drag it on too long. But
Spoilers for the addiction.
What he was talking about with kind of like quenching, kind of suppressing his hunger, I suppose, and his need for like his addiction.
Yeah.
I found that stuff really fascinating, and I liked the way that it was explored, and him kind of forcing her to go cold turkey for a while until she's like, oh, I gotta get some fucking blood in me. I like that shit a lot. I really like that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was yet another like kind of interesting spin on the vampire. Like you never think about vampires like fasting, you know? That's not like a thought you've ever thought about. But
Yeah, he was
I don't
interesting.
He should have been in it way more. I thought he was.
I know,
he was
in, like,
second
one-
It was kind of like a
scene.
marketing thing.
yeah, I know. It
He's
was definitely
second build, and
marketing.
he's in like one scene.
Like fucking Edie Falco's in it more, and she's like what, 4th or 5th build or something.
Yeah.
Very weird.
One thing I did kind of find irritating overall, I mean, I guess it kind of goes more into the philosophy aspect of it, but like the whole thing of her like asking them to tell her to go away.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a bit overdone.
so
And it wasn't really.
It was really overdone.
I think it just had to do something about free will.
That stuff was completely overdone, and like I got the idea after like the very first scene of, you know, the woman like biting her. Like you get it from there, and it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a free will type of thing. But then she kind of adopts it.
Yeah.
Like she's fucking Quentin Tarantino or something. Seeing something
It's like
she likes and being
it's like
"I'm
that's
gonna use
her
that."
that's her whole like philosophy around all of this shit. She's just like, that's my thing I do now.
Yeah, but it was weird too, though, because when she runs into Christopher Walken on the street, he's like, "Oh yeah, tell me to stop." Like,
Vampires, no other vampires.
It must have been the word on the street, the vampire street.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
some girls
I
going
suppose.
around asking us to tell them to stop. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, you know, it's probably a small community, those vampires down on the
Vampires
streets.
Yeah.
They know.
News travels fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, did you just turn every single person you bit into a vampire so you could have a vampire party at the end of the movie?
It's
I
very
guess
weird.
so. I don't know.
That's another inconsistent thing between vampire movies. Like, what turns a vampire into a vampire?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I know there's some vampire movies where, like, oh yeah, they can, you know, completely drain them to kill them, or just like a little bite and a little suck that'll just turn them. But, like, I guess it goes along with the drug addiction thing of, like, her kind of infecting other people with... I mean, her pushing drugs onto other people, I
yeah.
guess that
Yeah.
would be kind of the interpretation of that.
Yeah.
Where, like, she's completely ruining everyone's lives. And I did really love that party scene. I thought that was so fucking disturbing.
Yeah.
And ultra violent. And I like... I
loved it too.
love how the blood looks in black and white.
I like the
Yeah.
shot where
And,
it's
like-
like all of them kind of like eating and like it's kind of doing like transitions between different shots and stuff. It looks really cool. I like that part.
Yeah, but just like how primal they're all acting. You
Yeah.
know, literally drug addicts.
Yeah, literally. The
needing
whole
to get
movie
their
is a
fix.
parallel for drug addiction, basically. Like, so if you view it as that, like, I thought it was pretty clever. I didn't think it was too blunt or anything in that way.
The blood overdose is a bit much.
The blood overdose, you thought? I don't know.
Yeah.
Even that, I was like, like, I knew they were going to do that. That's cool. I knew they were going to do that.
I did really like this movie, but I kind of feel the same way about this in parts that kind of Julia did with The Hunger, in that, like, I respect it kind of breaking, like, vampire rules and all that, but at a point it was just like, does this really lend itself to being a vampire movie?
Yeah.
Because
That's what I was asking the whole time, basically.
overdosing on blood, like getting, like, the hunger, like, never stopping, never ceasing, that doesn't seem like very vampiric. Like, vampires typically, they're just like, oh yeah, I just need to kill one person today and then I'm fed.
Yeah, exactly. That's
But,
what
like,
I
that
wasn't
whole
really getting.
party scene was a massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand too with just like the it's just such a negative, bleak film. So every single idea is about people being the worst they could possibly be, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like never being satisfied, I guess.
Yeah, and she turns every person into the worst possible version of them that they can be.
I just kind of
herself.
I looked at that from the point of view of like, this is like maybe how a drug addict would see the world or try and justify their actions, you know.
I mean, to this movie's credit, Abel Ferrara was apparently like a hardcore heroin addict.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I guess this is a very personal film to him in terms of how the drugs made him feel. Like, I mean, I'm guessing you read it too. Like the top letterbox thing was just like quotes he said like during the director's commentary or whatever, and one of them was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm so glad I'm off this shit." So clearly, just a lot drawing from like his own experiences, like being an addict. I'd give this a light 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. It's flawed for sure, but I like the style of it. I like a lot of the more violent scenes. I thought some of the philosophical stuff was interesting, but you know, it's flawed, but I really like it, and I'm glad I've finally seen it.
Well, I'll be crazy because I'm gonna give this a fucking 10 out of 10. I really don't find any problems with it. I didn't.
Whoa.
It's a nice, tight 82 minutes. It's short as hell. I like the philosophical ramblings. I love the way it looked. I like the cast, the performances. I like the whole parallel drug addiction. I mean, Abel Ferrara has always been, like, this is my 5th Abel Ferrara movie I've seen, and all of them have been philosophical. So I feel like this is just sort of his, like, wheelhouse. So I kind of knew what I was getting into there. But yeah, I really loved it a lot. I like this guy's style for sure.
I will go with a 2 out of 10.
By Christ.
Yeah, that's a pretty big jump. It just really annoyed me. And yeah, I think I've said all I need to say on it, really.
Yeah, I honestly probably give it the same. I don't think I want to revisit it.
Oh, that's completely fair. And yeah, that's our spooky discussion, I suppose, for Halloween.
That's our spooky discussion.
We did it.
If you made it this
Episode.
far without
did
being
it.
spooked,
Yeah.
Yeah.
should we get into listener
Yes.
questions?
Listener questions. Okay, well, first from Atomic, I can never say, Atomic Ant Reviews. It's not a question. He said, The Addiction, so underrated. I agree with you, man. I fucking agree. I do.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I-
I'd say it's underrated.
Yeah.
I would not.
I'm addicted to hating the addiction.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
From Scenes from the Couch, Abby, if you became a vampire, do you think you'd be able to drink blood? Like, for real, could you do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it
Yeah.
before.
What other choice do you have? You've done-
Yeah, I think you
No,
want
as
it.
in my own cuts. Like, you
Well,
know,
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
sometimes
Everyone
you lick
sucks
up a
blood
bit
out
of
of their
blood.
own cut. Yeah.
Sometimes you lick up a bit of blood.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I could drink gallons.
Especially if
You'd
it
have
was like
to.
really satiating my hunger and shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd be really
Yeah.
into it, I'm sure.
Agreed.
I mean, you've no other choice. You can't eat real food.
Yeah, you're probably like, oh, I want a cheeseburger. Like, I just want some blood.
You want a blood
Yeah.
burger.
Yeah.
What about raw meat?
That would probably
Raw
work.
meat.
You just squeeze it out like a sponge.
Just take a squirrel and wring it out in your mouth, in your glass.
We're getting banned.
From Movies That Don't Suck, he asked, what did you guys think of Abigail? Who else has seen Abigail here?
I haven't seen
I haven't
Abigail.
seen it.
Yeah.
None of
Guess
you
don't
guys
have
have?
I do want to see it.
I'm the only one that's seen it. I didn't really like it that much, but everyone else seems to like it, so maybe you guys will like it. I just thought it was a little cringy for me, but whatever. The trailer gave away, the reveal was not satisfying because that was the whole ploy of the movie. Like, they treat it as a plot twist, but that was the whole marketing of it, so it's not really a plot twist. The
Yeah.
girl
Yeah.
being a vampire.
That's what I heard.
So
Oh,
if
that's
that was
stupid.
never marketed, it'd be mind-blowing. I'd be like, holy fuck, this is so cool. But, like, it kind of took away all the excitement of it from me.
I mean, like something we discussed on the podcast not too long ago. If that was spoiled, it's another vampire thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. From Brody, better Nicolas Cage Vampire's Kiss or Renfield? Well, none of us have seen,
Vampire's
besides
Kiss.
Keelan,
Keelan's
yeah.
seen Renfield.
I've seen Renfield. Renfield sucks.
I haven't even seen Renfield. I know I'm going to love Vampire's Kiss more. It's just, I've seen it too many times. It's too
Who
close
knows?
to
I
me.
might love Renfield's more.
Yeah.
You might.
You never know.
Maybe. And last from Alright So Reviews, one of our faithful patrons, Kevin, he asked, best vampire movie that isn't horror?
Oh god.
Jesus Christ.
I know, I had to think about this. Well, Vampire's Kiss isn't really horror, right? I mean, I don't call it horror. It's more comedy. I would go with that's one of my favorite ones. That's not horror.
Twilight.
Ooh.
I think I'm going to have to unironically go with Twilight.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, there's not many good. Like, that's what I was saying about this episode. Like, I don't think there's that many good vampire movies out there.
Julia would agree with this one. Only Lovers Left Alive.
Yeah.
I actually was gonna say that because
But I don't like that
love
movie.
that movie. I think it's such a wonderful romance.
I really want to see
I
it.
like that one.
I love Jim
Me
Jarmusch.
too.
I thought it was pretty good.
There is like one vampire movie I can't wait to show Liam. Now I'm like, I gotta show him. Interview with the Vampire. That is the vampire movie, you guys. It's the only
Yeah,
one.
I wouldn't really call that a horror.
Oh,
It's
seen
a
it.
drama. I think it's a drama. It's very sad.
I'm going to say Interview with the Vampire. I really love that
Yeah,
movie.
it's fucking amazing.
so yeah, before we sign off or whatever, next topic, it's me? Is it me?
It's you.
It would have been easy for me to pick like another horror themed episode because it's October, but I mean, you know, I'm always going to be recommending horror shit anyway. So this was kind of definitely our spooky themed, like it's going to come out on Halloween. I feel good about that. But there's another reason I want to recommend this topic It's not movies, not horror. We've been doing a trend a little bit with some of our episodes. We've been knocking out. I mean, it would feel wrong not to.
Oh.
Yeah. You already know where I'm fucking going. You already know where I'm going. No, what? What's so bad about it? We've been doing the big four of new metal, all right? And this is one of my favorite genres. But also, I thought it was topical enough because they do have a new album coming out in November. So a new album of theirs is coming out soon. And they're the big four new metal. And so I have to complete it too because I wanted to complete it. And so I'm suggesting Linkin Park, their discography.
Fuck.
What?
I have to listen to the second half of the discography again.
I'm not looking forward to that.
Is it, is it? Would you rather listen to Limp Bizkit or Linkin Park? I mean.
Oh, Linkin Park.
Linkin Park. But...
Yeah. Okay. So.
If
Yeah.
we do
I mean,
Limp
look.
Bizkit, we could do Linkin Park.
Yeah. Exactly. If you could do Limp Bizkit, you can do anything.
Exactly.
But I just felt like, I feel like at least some of their music we all love. Like, I love their first two albums. Like, unless we literally waited, I don't care if we do or not. Like, if we don't include the new album in the discussion, I don't care. I just figured because it's building up to the new album. So I don't care if it's really a part of it or not. 6, 7. They have 7 albums. Compared to what we've done in the past, that's not bad. That's only half of Korn's discography. So, I mean, like, 7 albums is doable.
Korn was the longest, but hey, it was probably the most rewarding. Well, maybe System of a Down for you guys. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's Hybrid Theory, Meteora, Minutes to Midnight, 1,000 Suns, Living Things, The Hunting Party, and One More Light. That is about it. So you can find me at Views by Quinn on Instagram, Letterboxd, all that stuff. Just check out the links in the link tree in the description.
And you can find me at Liam and Hyde on most things. I'm on Discord and Letterboxd and Serialized and Music Board and stuff like that.
And you can find me as Bloody Charlotte on all bloody social medias, including Bloodstagram and Blutterbox.
I have a link tree. Can I just say that? Because I've got a lot of underscores. Yeah, check out the link tree, guys.
What's the quote for this episode? I should have been thinking about it. Bye, everybody, and well, fuck you too.